We're on.
And welcome back, everybody. Hope that break wasn't too long. We're all ready to get stuck into our Pact Fates stuff. People are talking about the milkmaids and Word of God. Evidently, the chat's been kind of entertaining themselves in the meantime, so that's fun.
Good.
We are joined by Scott and Matt. Welcome, Scott and Matt.
Hello.
Howdy.
How's it going, guys?
Synthesis calls you Elliot too, Scott. So I hope you're okay with that.
Wow.
We got a few donations in the meantime to catch up on. Corona Gem has donated $2 and said 7 butt sacks. So butt sack, butt sack, butt sack, butt sack, butt sack, butt sack, butt sack. And now butt sack is summoned to look around. Yep, there he is. Yep, just over there in the background.
I don't know if we're better off with the audience or not.
Yeah, so now we've actually...
Oh, shit, that was me.
Yeah.
I did it.
No, I already did it. Did you not remember?
Yeah. No, I forgot.
Guys, okay, we're 2 hours in and already things are starting to fall apart. Lexicon Brought also donated $3.33, which is half the number of the beast, and said Orneus again. So now we're at 8 times. Is that even worse? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody. So let's talk about what we're doing. So for the next 3 hours, we're diving into what I'm calling Pact Fates, which is a kind of role-playing system of my own design, I guess.
Yeah.
That's taken some inspiration from the Fate core rule set, if you're familiar with that, and the Pactdice rule set, and merged them into one cohesive rule set. We're going to be doing some character creation. We've got some basics of some characters, but we're going to flesh them out more with obviously Scott and Matt and Elliot. I'm going to be acting as your game master. And then we're going to get into a bit of a campaign. So the Pact Fates rule set are public. I believe I've published them, or I've published the character creation sheet at least. Hold on, let me pull it up. I've got too many windows on my Mac here. I'm going to post the character creation link in the Twitch chat in case people want to follow along with it. But basically, we're going to flesh out the rest of the characters first.
Yep.
We're going to go through some of the rules, and then we're going to dive into our segment. Now, I realize we didn't actually get our dice, so I'm going to start explaining. Do you want to run and collect the Fate dice quickly?
Sure thing.
Matt and Scott, have you guys got your Fate dice as well, ready to go?
Oh, hell yeah.
Totally.
Perfect.
Wait, Matt, that sounded like sarcasm.
I mean, I have dice, and I'll just say that you map certain numbers to certain outcomes.
So we can, I guess let's start off with hearing out who our characters are. So, Matt, do you want to take it away for us? Tell us who is your character that you're going to be playing as.
Okay. Well, my character, his name is Rupert Beaumont. Rupert Beaumont has always been a quiet, young man. He's always kept to himself. At a very young age, he learned, in the course of, evading the attentions of an abusive schoolmaster, that he should keep his head down and avoid attention. And that's just kind of soaked in as his personality. And since he's become awakened as a practitioner, he's just made an art of that. So as a living, he breeds and sells the kittens of the Ashera breed of house cat, which is the most rare, most expensive. It is literally in real life the rarest and most expensive breed of house cat.
I love it.
Now, is this information you knew, or did you look this up?
I looked this up.
Okay, good.
It's
very good.
Well, yeah. And he. So do you want me to read the whole, or do you want me to go through the whole backstory here, or do we save pieces of this?
So one of the core things to Fates is the concept of aspects, which kind of define characteristics of your character. Those can be positive or negative. And these aspects are what about 50% of the game is going to revolve around. As we try and do things, we're going to do things that align with our aspects. So, for example, an aspect of, let's say, Blake Thorburn might be self-sacrificing. So that has some positives and some negatives. And so you might invoke that as we go throughout the game. So let's talk about the key aspects for Rupert. For Pact Fates, the system we're running here, there are 3 key aspects. We've got our declarative aspect, which is how the world sees you. We've got our authoritative aspect, which is how you interact with the world. And we've got our trouble aspect, which is the thing that seems to keep coming back in your life and causing you problems. So do you want to take us through the aspects for Rupert?
Sure. So his declarative aspect is that he is a fancier of felines. That is how he appears. That is his job, and his familiar happens to be in the form of a cat. The authoritative, well, of course. The authoritative aspect is Teflon coated, which basically just means nothing ever sticks to him. Like part of the aspect of his character that he keeps his head down means even if he's involved in something shady, he manages to weasel out of it without ever really looking like he was responsible. And part of the way that expresses itself is that his implement is a Teflon-coated frying pan.
I love the idea of you smacking people with a Teflon frying pan, Princess Peach style. So let's see if
Absolutely.
that happens during our campaign.
That's the idea. And then the trouble, and you might have to help me, maybe I didn't do this right, but the trouble is that he keeps his head down.
Yes.
So he's actually conflict averse and a bit of a coward.
Yeah, so I love this. This is a perfect example for why aspects are a bit of a double-edged sword. So keeping your head down obviously could be seen as a positive in some situations, but a negative in some situations. And so we'll do our best to make sure that you, Matt, as a player, are trying to invoke that aspect in positive ways, and I, as a game master, am trying to invoke that aspect in negative ways. So I'm going to try and make sure that these aspects actually reflect poorly on you sometimes in conflicts.
Excellent.
Scott, do you want to take us through your character, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter?
Sure. My character's name is Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. He's actually 40 years old.
Straight away, I'm loving it.
As a teenager, he was one of those like super obsessive journalist types that like took the shitty high school paper like way too seriously. And then he had this dream. He was going to go to college and then get a job at the New York Times or at whatever a paper in Australia is. That
Sydney
one,
Morning
I don't
Herald.
know.
Yeah,
But
I
then-
guess what's the equivalent of a prestigious Australian paper? All the Australian media is kind of the lamestream media, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah,
We have a bit of a stronghold on our media here.
Yeah, well, let's not go into that, but yeah, New York Times still works.
Yeah,
Sure,
let's
New
say
York
New
Times.
York Times. That's fine.
But then,
BuzzFeed AU.
but then he became a practitioner and was, instead of chasing the stories down, he was forced to hide all the stories. And so it's 26 years later. He works for the town paper for this little shitty town.
Yep.
He's writing about crap that no one cares about. And on the side, he's like playing an information brokering amongst the others and the practitioners.
We should set the stage for people that this campaign at least starts, not takes place in, but starts in a town called Broken Hill, which is a town in New South Wales. It's a fairly rural town.
Yeah, it's right out in the middle of nowhere. It's not quite Alice Springs, those
Yeah.
of you who know what that is, but like, yeah, this is a town that is just it's quite small. It's in the middle of nowhere. It used to be thriving on mining,
Yes.
and is that's now sort of tapered off.
It's a town that's definitely past its prime, I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
is fair to say. And
Yeah,
sorry
I
if you're
called
from
it-
Broken Hill.
I called it a one kangaroo town.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Cool. Do you want to go through your key aspects there for us, Scott?
Sure. My declarative aspect is seeker of inconvenient truths. People come to me to know things, and a lot of people don't like that I know things. My authoritative aspect is fly on the wall. And my trouble is must stay relevant.
Oh, that's fun.
I like that. So your trouble, I can already see that I'm going to compel this trouble by forcing you to do things that you feel will make you stay relevant.
Yes.
So that's great.
Yes.
Cool.
I didn't talk about. Should I talk about my name now? I don't know how to do this.
Let's do it.
So I'm not good on the Pact stuff, so we're gonna have to invent a legitimate reason for this. But Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter has to go by Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter, whether or not it's like a curse or like the identity of Boy Reporter has become so ingrained to him as a personality. He has to go by that. He has to. Every time he introduces himself, it has to be Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter,
Yeah.
even though
Full
he's a
title
40-year-old
needed.
man.
Yeah. The way I like to think of this is maybe when you were younger, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, you you made a deal that perhaps was ill-advised, and it defined your identity as boy reporter. Even as you aged and you felt frustration with this, your identity was still defined as boy reporter, meaning that maybe things like people will respond to your questions more actively if you use your full title, things like that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I like that.
Perfect. And Elliot, should you touch on your character?
Such this. So I will be playing Greed. I will be playing an incarnation of Greed. With the slight nuance here being it's specifically like hoarding and gathering of stuff, basically taking from others and keeping it. So, Broken Hill was a town that was defined essentially in a lot of ways by mining coming in and taking all the money out. And this is an incarnation of that kind of greed. So pretty simple aspects. Declaratively, I am an incarnation of greed.
Yep.
My authoritative is that I take and I hoard whenever I can. And so my trouble then is I am unable to give.
Yes. So not good at giving things up, which means you actively will have to refuse being generous wherever you can.
Oh, yes. So it's just gonna be a great party member, real team player.
I think we've got a bit of a brief on each of the characters. Let's do some donations here. So we have a donation from Kipos, a $2 donation. And what Kipos says is, say Ratcatcher is greater than Love Lost, please.
Ratcatcher is greater than Love Lost, please.
Thank you, Elliot. And now to get behind the kimono, to part the kimono for a second, an old Movim Bam expression. I actually do like Ratcatcher over Love Lost. I'm not sure if I should be weighing in on this.
Yeah, I'm afraid. It's okay to be wrong, but you are wrong.
Yeah.
You voted for Gilpatrick, so.
We have a donation from Drunk Peter who says, "Hi, Scott and Matt." So feel free
Hi.
to respond to that
Hi.
as you will.
And did we
How's
miss
it
a $10
going?
one?
Yeah,
How are you,
we've
Drunk
got-
Peter?
We've got a
Money.
donation from Prometheus1 who says, "Thank you to both for all the work you've put into this podcast over the last year and a half. It's been a pleasure to be along for the ride. Elliot, add a mixture of choice to the drink."
Okay.
So while Elliot goes and does that, I'm going to talk through the basic rules of the system that we're using. So the role-playing system that we're using is a game called Fate Core, which is a fairly simple game, which the goal of which is to kind of allow you to create your own worlds in it. And so I've taken these rules and adapted them to be quite Pact-esque, using things from Pactdice and other kind of systems. So I'm going to run through the very basics of the rules here. So let's start off by talking about taking action. So similar to a role-playing game like Dungeons & Dragons that you might be familiar with, things that you'll do in Pact Fates, you will roll a dice to do. And I'm going to actually show you off what these dice look like. They're 6-sided dice, and looking at them, they have a plus sign, they have a neutral sign, there we go, and they have a negative sign. So when you roll a skill check in Pact Fates, you roll 4 of these dice, and pluses will add 1 to your roll, and minuses will take 1 away. The things that you'll do to take an action in Pact Fates, you might try and overcome an obstacle. So let's say Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, is trying to climb a wall. I might require him to make a check to do that, and he'll roll his dice. And depending on how difficult the wall is to climb, he will either succeed or fail, or succeed with style. So there are a few different outcomes. You can either fail, which means either you fail, or you succeed but at a cost. You can succeed, which is the bland option. You've kind of successfully done the thing. Or you can succeed with style, which means you've successfully done the action, but also you get a bit of a bonus on top. In addition to overcoming obstacles like a wall or something that you need to overcome, you might try and unlock an advantage, something called an aspect. In Pact Fates, the idea of aspects are basically core ideas that relate to your character. So for things like our incarnation of greed here, Elliot, his core aspect is that he's an incarnation of greed, and he might use that to try and invoke something positive. For example, he's trying to retain access to some wealth. That's obviously something that falls under his purview as an incarnation of greed. Alternatively, he might be trying to give something away, and I might, as a game master, require him to compel an aspect saying, actually, while you, Elliot, the player, want to give this away, I'm going to say that your character wouldn't give it away, and he'll have to accept that. We'll use a currency called fate points or karma during our game, which are kind of a relation of how much agency your character has over things. So as you try to invoke your aspect, you'll spend karma, and as I compel your aspects against you in negative ways, you'll gain karma back. So you can also, of course, use your actions to take an action to attack somebody or to defend yourself against somebody in a conflict. I think we'll dive into the rules for conflicts as we get to some conflicts.
Yeah.
But let's keep it fairly light for now. So that's the basics. You're going to roll these 6-sided dice with pluses and minuses, and that's going to impact your skill check. You're going to compel or invoke your aspects to do things positively or negatively for your character. And that's more or less the rules of Fate.
Nice
It's
and
pretty
simple.
straightforward. It's a simple game. It's a game that's open to interpretation, which is why we've chosen it to represent Pact, because Pact is a game about interpretation.
I'm
so-
excited.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would be good to really see how you can use your aspects in interesting ways. Okay, we've got a donation from Synths for $2 that says, Kent always introduced himself as a boy reporter, so much so that the spirits eventually only acknowledged the boy reporter's part. He now has to include that in order to be acknowledged at all.
See,
that's-
that I love that, and that's kind of what I was thinking, but I was like, I'm not as confident on my pact rules as you guys. So that's if that's allowed or if that fits within the system, that's what I was originally thinking.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
that's
like
perfect.
it. I like it.
So the first thing we're going to do is dive into character creation, and I'm going to share this link in the stream. But basically, we're going to do things like define the adventures your characters have been on, how they interact with each other, and we're going to do things like bidding for skills against each other. We're going to do things like getting our stunts, which are kind of our cool special skills. If we go to our character creation sheet, Elliot, let me just pull it up on our stream here. Oh, we don't have it here. Can you pull it up? Sorry.
Yeah.
Basically, what we're going to go through is talking about our characters as we create them. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. And we're going to build out the rest of our stories here. So the first thing that we need to do is declare our key aspects. Every character's already done that. You can see we've got Elliot's greed key aspects here. We talked about the declarative, the authoritative, and the trouble aspect. So the declarative is how you see yourself. The authoritative is how you interact with the world, and the trouble is the thing that haunts you. We can see we've got Greed's key aspects, we've got Rupert's key aspects here, and we've got Kent's key aspects here. The next
I'm sorry, that's Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Sorry, yes, I shouldn't just call him Kent. Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. We've got his key aspects here. So the next thing we want to do is to dive into our adventures. So how have our characters already existed, and what happens next? So I think we're going to take about 2 minutes here to write out a pivotal adventure in our character's life. So what has happened to your character? Maybe their first adventure, how they got introduced to practitioning. Maybe think about what might have caused their key aspects. For Pact Fates and Fate Core in general, the character creation is quite a communal thing. So we're going to define our key adventures, and then these key adventures are going to take shape through other characters' adventures to define how they react to each other as well. So Scott and Matt, Elliot, I think you've already done yours. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Scott and Matt, why don't you just take a few minutes to think about what's the first adventure that your characters went on? And of course, if you want to bounce ideas off of us, we can do that as well.
Okay, so it's like
Yeah.
Do the Right Thing, except 2 minutes instead of 30.
Exactly.
Come up
So
with a full-fledged
take
story.
much
Cool,
less
cool, cool.
time and achieve something that's equal result.
Yeah, in front of 90 people.
Yeah,
Awesome.
in front
Yeah.
of our stream, exactly.
Cool. Well, so for me, Matt, and I'll buy you time by mumbling and stumbling here. For me, one of the things I was thinking of was the idea that like my awakening happened. Like I was chasing a story for the school newspaper, and I want it to be like a really stupid story, like the exact kind of stupid story you'd get in high school, like what is in the school cafeteria food.
The canteen
Something-
prices are too high.
Yeah. And then like I stumbled upon like a secret meeting or something between actual practitioners, and that's the beginning of my story. But I haven't like fleshed that out yet.
I really like that.
So-
Taking a bit of inspiration from what exists already in the setting of Broken Hill, which is presumably where you grew up. We do have
Yes.
a council of Broken Hill, so we've got some characters that actually relate here. So the Lord of Broken Hill is a character called. Oh, hold on, let me pull up the specific document here. Yes, the Lord of Broken Hill is a character called Yaramar, who
Say
is
that again.
Yaramar, who is
Yara
specifically-
Mama.
Yarama. I'm this forsworn drink has me stuttering a little bit of my words here. But there's a character called Yarama who has taken over Broken Hill conceptually. So potentially you dropped into a meeting here and it got you kind of embroiled in the world of Pact.
Yeah, like I want to say, like as a good investigative boy reporter would do, I snuck into the school late at night,
I love that.
planning on
Yep.
breaking into the cafeteria. Was going to find out what is on those boxes that are being shipped in, and stumbled upon. I guess maybe one of the meeting places is at the school.
Yeah, sure.
maybe.
Let's make that. Yeah, we can define that. That's fine.
Yeah,
A school
And
is a
I-
good
so-
community hub, so that works.
yeah. So I spied on these people and I learned about this world. And then I don't know. So should we say like I got caught and they offered me a choice, or should I say I kind of like the idea that I chased down practitioning because I thought it would make me better.
Okay.
But of course it had the opposite effect because
Yes.
I can't fake news no more.
Yeah, I love that. So one of the core goals of our adventures here is we're going to define some key aspects about your character. So let's think about how some of Kent Sullivan's key aspects came about. Your goal is seeker of inconvenient truths, and so what you're trying to do is kind of get things out of your way so that you can hunt down the truth. Is that right?
Yeah.
So maybe you thought that getting access to this practitioner world is a good way for you to, hunt down these truths that might be inconvenient.
Yeah, I mean, like, just the idea, like, it's a whole different world that I have just learned that exists, and I feel like Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's reaction to that would be, I got to get me some of this.
Okay, cool. So let's put down as a note that your first adventure as Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, was to investigate something that you thought was going on at the school and accidentally stumble into a much bigger scenario than you realized. So we'll take that note and we'll use that in a bit.
Yes.
Maybe Greed, do you want to talk us through what your first adventure was?
Yes.
Just take a chocolate biscuit there to keep my energy reserves high.
So Greed has actually existed in Broken Hill for quite a while. He was sort of formed when someone tried to invoke the power of greed during the height of mining in Broken Hill. That person really overstepped, became the embodiment of greed, and now greed exists. And he did quite well at first with all the mining going on and the money leaving town. Unfortunately, he started to dwindle. So greed is someone who's existed and maybe had a shot at a proper lordship at one point, but has now sort of exists as someone who's overstayed their welcome, has lost a lot of his power, and is just, as smug as ever, and has tried to hold on to what he still has, but is really a much lesser version of what he used to be.
Cool. I love that. So already that's a good seed because we've got a core problem for you is that you're dwindling.
Yes.
A core idea for you is that you were once really powerful and you've got this kind of high in mightiness.
Yeah.
But it's fallen away.
Yep.
Love it. Perfect. Matt, sorry, I shouldn't say Matt. I should say Rupert. Rupert Beaumont. Do you have any ideas for your first adventure?
Sure. So when Rupert was a high school age kid, he was attending Burke Ward Public School in Broken Hill, Australia.
Is that a real public school that exists, or did you?
It is. It's got the word ward in it, so I had to choose this one.
Perfect.
Look at this guy doing his research. Wow.
We've got Burt Ward over here.
and he's he's a very like frightful young man, and so he hides, he slinks around, he tries to stay out of sight and avoid attention. And even before he was a practitioner, he would sort of like if he saw something wrong that he could fix without anyone noticing, then he would just fix it without anyone noticing, because fundamentally he wants there to just not be any trouble around him, because he thinks that if there's trouble, then he's going to be blamed for it, because this is just kind of how he was raised.
Yeah.
And so he's been going around in the background fixing things. And I think his first adventure just has something to do with he sees something wrong at the school that disturbs him and confuses him, and he wants to right it. And in doing so, he stumbles upon the school headmaster's possibly demonic, but at least very bad practitioner stuff. And this is enough to get him awakened, and somehow he survives this.
Yeah, I love this, because what we're going to do next is we're going to tie these stories together, and already we can see some ties starting to form between Rupert and Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's characters. So that's perfect. So let's make a note of that. Again, investigating the school, accidentally awakened, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
So the next step here is we're going to actually rotate clockwise, I guess. Actually, let's do counterclockwise. So
How's that?
That doesn't mean any more than clockwise.
it means
Reuben.
something to me, Elliot. It means something to me. What we're going to do is we're going to take those first adventures and we're going to tie other people's stories to them. So, for example, Scott, you're going to take Elliot's first adventure of being this god, or incarnation, I should say, an incarnation who was strongly tied to greed, but eventually started dwindling. And you're going to figure out how you started to feed into this aspect. Matt, you're going to figure out how Rupert figured into Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's story. And greed, you're going to figure out how you figured into Rupert's story. And we're going to start tying these stories together. So again, let's take a few minutes and think about how do our characters actually start to intertwine here, because we're going to form them into this complicated mesh of characters that are tightly intertwined, and therefore will naturally go on adventures together.
Okay.
So who has some ideas for how their character might cross paths with another character?
I mean, I'm pretty safe in saying that Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter is pretty greedy.
Okay, I
just
like that.
generally.
Yeah, I love that. So how did you meet greed, Kent?
I feel like, and I don't want to write your character for you, Elliot, but I feel like a greed that is dwindling in power and looking for more would see a kid like, or I guess, how far into the past are we going? Because I want to be like, it's important to me that Kent Sullivan, a boy reporter, is 40 years old, but I think this backstory stuff can happen when he's younger. So here's what I'll say. Flash forward, in my mind, flash forward 10 to 15 years in the future. He's now Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, mid-30s person. I feel like greed would see someone like that, recognize the greed in that person, and see maybe that is a useful tool to get some power back.
Okay, I like that. So he sees a hunger in you for, I'm hungry to build my brand, to build my name. And that's a kind of greed that he decides to ally himself with.
Yeah, especially like 10 years into this whole practitioning thing where greed is like, or where Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, is like nothing's going his way. And he's getting more and more desperate.
Okay, so now, as a result of that, we're going to actually create an aspect for Elliot that defines his relationship to you. So what do we think is a single word, or not a single word, a single kind of 2 or 3 word aspect that relates how he defines to you?
How greed defines to me?
Yes.
Or Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, to greed.
Sorry, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
So, okay. I mean, Elliot, do we want to, like, we talked about, like, is it too early in the process to talk about familiar stuff?
No, this is the right time to talk about it.
I think this is when we do that. Yeah, so do we want to go down that avenue? I like the idea of greed managing to view taking the familiar bond as taking more from Kent than he was giving.
Yeah.
So he was able to do it, and then both of them having not really achieved anything from it, and they're both kind of bitter about it.
Yeah. I love that.
Cool. I love that. So the goal is, the aspect is you've tied yourself to Scott to try and do some cool stuff, but it hasn't really worked out at all. So you've kind of hitched your sail to a sinking ship.
Yeah, which is very great, I think.
Now, this is a great example, Elliot, if we cut back to that. This is an aspect that defines something very specifically. We want to be, because this is Pact, we want to be a bit more poetic. Let things have positives and negatives.
So you're saying this one is too specific?
Too specific. Yeah. Let's define it in a way that feels a bit more poetic, and so we can interpret it in different ways to do positive and negative.
What about just tied to? Because that's what a familiar bond does to you, right? Is it it forces you to stay together?
Well, I actually like putting into this aspect.
Stuck with?
Stuck with is perfect because it has this negative perception of it. Stuck with Kent Sullivan. So not only are you tied to him, but there's this feeling of like, oh, I don't want to be tied to him anymore. That's what really gives us a good aspect. A good aspect should have positive aspects that we can use for positive things, but negative aspects that we can use for negative things.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think like, I don't know if I might be jumping ahead, but I think we said that my implement is one of those leather like flip reporter books, but I lost it, and it's because greed took it.
I love that again, because I can so imagine this situation of Kent Sullivan saying something like, oh, can you just go get that for me? And he goes and gets it and then never gives it back.
Yeah, it's mine now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that so much. I think let's put a aspect into that, or some like note maybe on your character sheet, Elliot, of has Kent Sullivan's implement. Let's maybe put it below the other aspects of just has that. So the next question is, Rupert, do you have any ideas for how your story ties into Kent Sullivan, boy reporter?
So I don't envision Rupert as being in his 40s. I envision him being maybe like 25. And
Okay.
so I'm thinking that Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, was conducting some business in the Burke Ward Public School,
Yes.
which led him to interact with this headmaster who maybe we need to define what the headmaster was doing a bit more, but something either that Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, would be interested in finding out about, or perhaps Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, was doing some kind of information brokering deal with this guy, and I stumbled upon this, and I think Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, is actually responsible for awakening me.
I
And
can see Scott's losing it at the fact that we have to say the full name every time. No, I love that. So I might dive into this a bit more. I've defined the Council of Broken Hill, but this is a very small town. And so the idea that the Council of Broken Hill has the main guy, the Lord of Broken Hill, who is the mayor, but he's also the headmaster of the school, I think that works perfectly. So
I love that.
let's make Yarima not just the Lord of Broken Hill, but also the headmaster of the school. So maybe
Okay.
Kent Sullivan was interacting with the headmaster, and Rupert had some reason to kind of chase this up, and found himself crossing paths with Kent Sullivan.
Okay.
That sounds
Sorry,
amazing.
Kent Sullivan,
I
boy
love it.
reporter.
Yeah, don't forget. Don't forget.
So what do we think is an aspect that defines that relationship?
Well, does
Yeah.
that imply that Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, has taken a bit of a mentor role, maybe unwillingly, but like, because in the
Yeah.
world of Pact, if you awaken someone, you're karmically responsible
Yes,
for
I
them,
really
right?
I like that a lot.
I think he is. Yeah, I think he's responsible for me.
Yeah, and I am not happy about it. I don't want to be
Yeah.
responsible for shit.
So
Perfect.
we want to try and figure out a way to represent that aspect as one of our relationship aspects for Kent Sullivan specifically. So Scott,
Yeah.
if you want to add for your first relationship aspect, something
Okay.
that defines that you're responsible for Rupert but not really happy about it. Figure out a way to do that poetically, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah. What's the opposite of what's the word for when someone else is beholden to you? I guess it's like
What is the opposite of beholden? I
yeah.
guess it is beholden, huh?
Yeah, I like beholden. I kind of like. I think that's a fitting word.
Maybe like shares the success or failures of Rupert. Something
Ooh, I
that
like that. I like that.
defines that his failures are your failures and his successes are your successes.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I'm sort of protected by or Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, is carrying part of my load because how's that
Exactly.
phrasing?
So we've defined that as an aspect for Kent Sullivan. Now our final
Okay.
little aspect for this round is how does greed relate to Rupert?
Yeah, well, I mean, so obviously there's that sort of familiar bond, there's this indirect, with the two links that already exist. But I like this aspect that Matt's created for Rupert around the Ashera cat breeding.
Oh, yeah,
because
okay.
they're so rare and expensive, I feel like that's something that greed would have wanted to or would have fed off of or been helping to push Rupert into doing passively or actively. I feel like that's just the sort of behavior greed would be encouraging, is the breeding of rare and exotic and precious animals.
So this is we. I don't know if this is the time to go into this, but just the fact that Rupert is a law magus or law magus. I don't know how you say that word.
Yeah.
And a big part of his sort of keeping his head down and manipulating karma is that he gives away a ton of the money that he makes from this enterprise. So maybe you did do that. You set me on the path of this highly lucrative
Oh, I
scheme to
really
breed
love
these
that.
cats.
Yeah.
And then I turned around and started giving all the money away, which would drive you crazy.
Yes.
But it's what lets me accumulate karma
Yeah, I like
in
that.
theory.
So
Okay.
then maybe the aspect that Rupert gets from this is a kind of frustrating benefactor, somebody who's invested in a really unique
Well,
and prosperous business, but actually gives away all the money.
Well, because this is meant to be greed's aspect. Isn't
No,
it?
this is. Sorry, wait. Is this Greed's aspect or Rupert's aspect? I think you already had your aspect, didn't you? Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Your
sorry.
aspect is that you're stuck with Kent Sullivan, boy
Oh,
reporter.
yeah. I
So
see.
this is an aspect for Rupert that defines his relationship to greed, but
Yes,
you
okay.
get to influence it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I like that idea of greed. Yeah. Maybe being pissed off at the decisions Rupert's made regarding having good karma.
So we could say like frustratingly generous, something that exemplifies how much of an annoyance it is to greed that you are so generous, but also it's a core trait of your character.
Frustratingly generous is good.
Yeah, are we
Yeah,
happy
I
with
like
that? That's up to you, Matt.
Okay. So do I put that on my sheet or on?
Yes, you
his-
put that on your sheet, on your first
Okay.
aspect that defines your relationship to another player.
Okay.
Yep.
Rupert gives away cat money to save stray cats and humans' children.
Yeah.
I told you to hoard those cats. You're making more of them. They're less rare now. I love that. That's a perfect example of...
Yeah, especially like I feel like greed would have very strong opinions on the concept of supply and demand, and maybe if Rupert is actually actively like and very prominently breeding the cats, that would upset greed as well.
So now we're going to do another layer to this. We're going to define again how our relationships intertwine, going the opposite way. So now, Elliot, as greed, you're going to define how you interact with this story where Rupert was investigating a story, found himself crossing paths with Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. How does greed play into that story?
Yeah, okay. So so this has obviously got to work around the fact that they eventually become familiars.
Yes.
I guess I wonder if there is so greed is someone who is very tied to Broken Hill as an incarnation, and I wonder if that has really limited Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. I wonder if there's an extra layer of resentment there in that, like, by becoming familiars, Kent Sullivan boy reporter was quite tied to Broken Hill specifically, thanks in part to greed.
I love the idea that Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, wanted higher aspirations, but accidentally hitched his wagon a bit too soon.
Yes.
And now can't get away.
That's
from
perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. It's kind of making literal the trapped in a small town thing. Like he's
Yes.
literally trapped in a small town. Yeah.
So what's a good aspect that relates to you being trapped in Broken Hill?
A good aspect.
Well,
yeah.
an okay aspect maybe.
Big fish in a
guess-
small pond.
But he's not a big fish.
No.
I love that
small
he's not.
small fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Or like
That's
tied,
perfect.
like
I don't know.
I mean, I guess,
small
like-
fish in a small pond.
okay,
honestly.
small fish in a small pond.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we could do something like Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, has, because it's a small town, and he's not like, I don't want to make him like, he's not a bad reporter.
Yeah.
He was actually quite good at it. It's
Yeah.
just it becomes more complicated when you're a practitioner.
Yes.
And he's just kind of stuck here, and then he doubly gets himself stuck here. So I like the idea that, like, yeah, he's stuck in a small town. It's like he's better than the level of news he covers, but because he's good at it and it's a small town, he like knows everyone kind
So
of.
like what wasted,
know what I mean?
wasted potential?
Yeah.
Something to do with that?
Maybe like too good to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you feeling, Scott?
I feel like I just put a cookie in my mouth at a bad time.
Like trapped and limited or something? I don't know.
Trying
Yeah, I
to
mean-
break free.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, maybe let's
Because I think that's his goal. His goal is to get the hell out of here.
Yep, okay.
maybe instead of trying to break free, let's say struggling to break free. So it gives us some
Sure.
of this negative aspect as well.
Sure.
Cool. So we got struggling to break free. Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. So maybe Rupert will go next. Your relationship, we've already kind of defined your relationship with greed. Let's talk about how you got involved with Kent Sullivan, boy reporter's story.
Okay.
So you reached out to
Well,
Ken
this,
Sullivan.
this, this would more. Wouldn't this be Scott doing it too, Matt? This time.
Sorry, yes. You're right, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Gets confusing with all these circular systems.
It's counterclockwise. It's straightforward.
Exactly. It's counterclockwise. Exactly right. Thank you, Matt.
So Matt,
simple.
refresh my memory here.
Uh-huh.
You were like, what led you to find out about this stuff, to see me and Mr. Principal Mayor?
So one of the things that makes Rupert kind of a natural fit for being a law magus, whatever, is that he is sort of trying to right wrongs that he sees, not because he believes in truth and justice, but because he doesn't want there to be any trouble. And he noticed something around the school that was amiss, and he decided to take it upon himself to just like quietly fix it. Like maybe he found some book that he knew was in the headmaster's private collection. He found it where it shouldn't be, and he decided he was just going to quietly sneak it back into the headmaster's office and replace it on the shelf where it belonged. And in doing so, stumbled upon your meeting with him, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I like the idea that like
So wonderfully
benign. So Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, on top of being a boy reporter, is an information trader. So like, if you've discovered something that I found, or like the evidence of something that I'm holding to use and to sell as information brokering, and you're like, I'm gonna take that and put it back, that would be pretty fucking annoying to me.
Okay.
So how do we define that in an aspect?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know the answer to that question.
And
So
this
what's
would be
the
my
core idea. What's the core sentence here?
So is this my aspect or Kent Sullivan, boy reporter's
It's your
aspect?
aspect, Rupert Beaumont.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just take all that stuff we just talked about and distill it down to 5 words.
It does seem to be something like setting things right, even if it's a terrible idea or something. I don't know. But see, that's the thing, is he's not actually brave. He's expressly doing this to avoid future trouble. So
I wonder if it's like too like.
Well, we've already got keeps his head down as an aspect.
Yeah.
So I don't think we necessarily need to retread that. But something like, I'm trying to think, something like avoiding a fight probably is too similar to keeps his head down.
I almost more see it as like the focus of this for me is that he's sort of too anal retentive to stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
Like that's what's jumping out to me, is it's like he's so adamant in his beliefs that he's like putting himself in situations that are just kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like,
So we also had the aspect of frustratingly generous. So maybe we dive into something that's a little bit different to that, but is like always must stick to his beliefs or something like that.
Or,
I think Kyrgyzstan's got some good suggestions in the chat here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tunnel visioned altruism.
Tunnel visioned altruism,
seems good.
I quite like
that.
as a way to sum
Yeah.
that up. Because that also
Okay.
gives us a bit of a you're missing the forest for the trees kind of vibe.
And I like
Yeah,
I
I
like
was-
how that plays into the relationship with Kent Sullivan, boy detective.
Yeah.
Because
He's
like-
he's a reporter. He's
Boy
not
reporter.
a
Sorry,
detective.
I'll-
Hey, please.
getting
Yeah,
my
come on.
getting my franchises confused.
Yeah.
That's the spin-off. That's his son, Ken Sullivan Jr., boy detective.
No, like, because Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, if he's taken on this role of being like a bit of a black market information broker, like as Matt pointed out, that would be very upsetting to Rupert.
Yeah.
So that's probably a point of contention between this young man and the boy reporter who is responsible for him.
So yeah, I quite like the idea of tunnel visioned altruism for that as a way to represent that aspect.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that.
Cool.
Cool. Greed. So we've talked about how you're stuck with Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. Now let's ask Rupert Beaumont. How do you define your relationship to greed, and what aspect do we get from that?
Yeah, we haven't thought much about this.
No.
This
Yeah, this is I think
dyad.
the least defined one.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we interact mostly through Ken Sullivan, boy reporter. Do we? Is there maybe something that greed wants from me? Well, so you're trying to you're trying to get me to be wealthy so that you can take my money, I suppose. And maybe you even like somehow got me either talked me into or got me on the track of breeding this one particular breed of cat, which is like turned out to be a financial fantastic idea. I enjoy the idea that like I'm like the richest person in town, but I always give all of my money away.
That's very good. So maybe we define that aspect as something like always pushing Rupert to the next kind of, entrepreneurial, thing.
Yeah.
I lost the train of that sentence as I went a bit there.
I mean, I guess the other sort of aspect of this is I wonder what Rupert's opinion of greed would be. Like, as someone who wants everything to be in its right place, how does he feel about something that is the embodiment of greed and is thus just going through, like taking from other places, but in a way that is by nature?
Yeah, I like the idea that I'm actually just oh my God, I love this. Okay.
All right.
Like one of, I don't know if this is actually how karma works in this story, but assuming it is, let's say that you're constantly like every room you go into, you steal 3 things, and like if I'm around, then I will just like surreptitiously leave the dollar value equivalent of those items on the desk. So I'm just like soaking up good karma for doing this.
Well, so you're trying, you're like cleaning up the mess almost, or like.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
because I can't actually take it from you, and
I like that a lot, because like I in my mind I kind of see like Greed and Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, hitched their wagons to each other with the hope that they'd get a mutually beneficial relationship, and it hasn't worked out at all. And then this new person comes in with Rupert, and Greed's like, finally, this is my chance. And Greed goes like all in on this guy, and then once again
fucks it up so heavily. Okay, how do we represent that as an aspect for you, Greed?
Yeah, well, so I guess this idea that I'm being undermined. So I like the idea that karmically, if Rupert is going around and replacing objects that I take, that would undermine some of my power, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. Like, because if I get power from stealing, and Rupert is just of his own volition replacing what I take, then I haven't taken something. So there's like this I don't know. Like, I almost as an aspect, I see it as this confusion as to why I'm losing more power, because I'm still taking things, and for some reason they're not empowering me the way they should be.
Something like
I mean,
wealth
you
not
get
accumulating or something.
Yeah, I mean, you get power from taking, but you also get power from the desire to take. And here's a person who is doing the exact opposite of that. They have the desire to give.
Yeah, exactly. And expressing that undermines my core power further. Yes. Yeah.
So we could maybe say something like weakened by altruism.
Yeah, I like that. Especially because we've used that exact word for Rupert, so it ties in.
Exactly. All right, let's call that weakened by altruism. All right, and now so you got your caps lock on there, buddy. Now we've got our key aspects. We've defined the ways our characters interact. We've defined the relationships and the stories that led to these relationships. So that's pretty good. Our next.
Do we want to do some? Yeah,
we'll do some donations.
Donations,
yeah.
Because we hit
the milestone.
We hit the next milestone, exactly.
Which is insane.
Let me just give a bit of a teaser, which is the next thing we're going to do is we're going to bid. We're going to compete to get skills. So you guys are going to be competing against each other, but also against the existing council in Broken Hill to bid on which skills you want to have as your most strongest. We'll get to that in a second. Let's first dive into some of our donations. So, okay, so I think the first one that we've got here is from Kyrgyzstan, who donates $2 and says, "Did you look into Wildbow's Pact system for the RPG session? If so, why did you decide to use Fate instead? Just because it's simpler?" So yeah, I looked into Pactdice. I think Pactdice has a lot of really interesting ideas. I think one of the ideas that Wildbow says he likes the most is the idea of bidding against each other for power, which is something that feels very Pact. Yeah. That's something that we're going to get into with the skill bidding next. But I did feel like there was too many things missing in one aspect, and also it's too complicated to explain and go through in a 3-hour session. Fate Core is a system that's very, very simple and basically has like 3 or 4 rules. And I thought that would work very good, especially because I wanted to do some collaborative storytelling stuff like this, which is what Pact's all about.
Yeah. So we've tried to, Reuben has tried to encapsulate the great aspects of Pactdice's character creation in this. So
I don't think I hit it fully, but I did hit some of these competitive aspects.
We've tried to take as much of it as we could, because I think that is the strength of the Pactdice system from what I've seen. But we just didn't think we'd get through enough in 3 hours.
Yeah, I know it seems like a long time, but it's only 24 hours, guys. It's not that much time. Maybe when we do the 48-hour stream, we'll do Pactdice. So the next donation was from Aquabuddha, who donates $2 and says, "Can we make Scott and Matt drink as well?" I mean, Scott and Matt, it's up to you guys. Scott, I saw you have something there.
I'm gonna have to go downstairs and get some whiskey, but only if you pay me to.
All right. Well, I mean, Aquabuddha has paid $2. How much? What's the amount that you need, Matt?
I'm gonna need another $2 to go get that whiskey.
Another $2 donation. So someone else donate $2, and then Matt will definitely drink some whiskey. Okay, Synths has said. Basically an idea on Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, which is maybe the fact that Kent... Now, Synths only said Kent, but I can only assume he means Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. Maybe the fact that Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter was slowly losing his name and only his title at Boy Reporter was being acknowledged. He was slowly starting to fall through the cracks. I like this. So on the verge of falling into the abyss, he accidentally found a group of practitioners. So we've defined a bit of this story, but I like the idea that he was actually slipping away as he moved further away from his idea from his like title.
I wonder if, another idea could sort of be after Awakening, Kent Sullivan tried to really hit the Boy Reporter thing hard, in an attempt to gain an identity and a power, and kind of overswung it, and now has become dependent on it.
Well, because like when you're like 12, I mean, Boy Reporter.
Yeah.
That's like it's the Lights Camera Jackson guy who was a film critic that was like 8, and that was his gig. And he's like, I'm the 8-year-old film critic, and now he's like 20 something, and no one cares anymore.
Right, but he's still defining himself by the 8-year-old film critic.
Yes.
I love that. That's perfect.
I'll be back. Don't say anything funny.
Yeah, Matt, you've got to go get some drinks now.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Funderfulness has another fan art request, Elliot, for you to add to the sheet, which is Barbie tossing some others on the Barbie. Where do we put that?
So wait, are you guys gonna have to draw this stuff?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Scott. Can you guys draw?
No,
we can't.
We made that very clear, though.
Yeah, I think we made that obvious going in.
Okay,
it's fine
good.
for you just to add it to the sheet while we're doing this.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's gone. Anyway, the next donation was from Kyrgyzstan, who for $2 just said, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. So I agree, Kyrgyzstan. Yes, that's very good. Yep, Scott's drinking to that. Thank you, Scott. Aquabuddha has for $2 said $1,000. So this was the $2 that got us over the line of the $1,000 donation goal. Yep. We'll get to that in a second. Let's just finish
thank you.
This first. Yes, thank you very much, Aqua. Thank you to everybody. We're 3 hours in and we've already hit $1,000. I mean, this is pretty insane.
We didn't think we'd. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So next we had D-Dev. D-Dev says either add to the drink or make the local wildlife relocator of Broken Hill a practitioner who gains power from every critter people call him to deal with. So I think we should add a drink and
we can do both. We can do both of those.
So I actually do have a character that might fit that fairly well. I'm gonna just quickly add that to my notes and we'll get to that shortly. Yeah, Elliot, do you want to just add something to the? Matt's adding something there. Vodka, is it? What is it?
Lafroig. It's Lafroig whiskey.
All right.
My familiar would never let me drink this. The cat.
Oh, the cat.
Familiar would never let me drink this due to the smell.
Unless it's with milk. Okay, so I'm adding to one of our characters on the council that we'll get to later that they act as a wildlife rehabilitator, taking power from all the wildlife rehabilitated.
My God, what did I miss?
Loves wildlife. So I'm going to add an aspect here of would die for a kangaroo.
Matt's fancy as fuck. Yes, 100%.
Yes. Okay. So next up we have Sorry. Aquabutter has donated $2 and says, "Can we get Scott to sing Don't Stop Believing?" So do you want to give us a few bars, Scott?
You don't want to hear me
Don't want to
sing
do that?
at all. Let me pull up.
Yeah, I don't even know the actual words for that.
I mean, I feel like if the lyrics, like if the song was on, I could sing it, but like, because I am just a small town girl living in a lonely world.
Yeah, totally. Just a small town, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, living in a
lonely Australian town.
Yeah, that almost rhymes. All right. We'll see. Maybe after you've had a few more whiskeys, we can coerce you.
Yeah.
into doing it,
I think
Scott.
maybe an hour into this thing, I'll be like screaming into the microphone.
Okay, we've got another. God, they're really coming in now, aren't they? Okay, so Sia Graug has donated $50 and says, "Draw the defenestration boogeyman." I'll read the whole message. "Hi, Elliot and Reuben. Thanks for all the time spent going through Pact, and Scott Matt for doing Wormwood 2. There you go. You guys get some credit too.
Thank you.
Here's a bit of a donation, which I think lets me compel you to draw a fan art. That is correct, Sia Graug. So why not draw our hero, the defenestration boogeyman? Now, I think that's already in there, but we have to do a second one.
We'll
I
have to
think,
do two. Yeah.
Have to do two.
You got it, and it has to be different. It has to be different.
Two different. Yeah,
We
maybe
can't.
we'll
We
each do
can't just
one.
trace it or something. No.
And I will say, Sierra Grau, I appreciate the shout out, but this is Elliot and Reuben all the way. This is entirely them. This madness, it's all them.
Yeah. Yeah, madness is a good way to describe it.
What was the one I missed before as well? There was another request for a drawing.
Barbie tossing some
yeah.
others on the Barbie?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. That was from Funderfulness as well.
Yeah,
I think who already has come in there as well.
Yes.
Cool.
I think Lexi's right. I need to do more Taylor Swift mixes. That's what I'm gonna do. I'll mix up something else.
Judy has said in chat, "That's right, Scott. Distance yourself from this dumpster fire."
That's not what I meant. I just don't. I don't want to take any credit. I don't want to take any credit for any of this.
I don't want to take any credit or
not
accountability for anything.
Yeah, well, that's a little hidden bonus.
Yeah. Okay, so other donations. We're still catching up. We've got Hero of Old Iron or Hero of Loving the Blake One, $4. Make it a double, Matt. So more encouragement to drink. A $10 donation from Drunk Peter saying, "Drink, Matt." So we've got you there. We have one from Aquabutter who's donated $5 and says, "Scott, drink something, please."
Yes, sir.
We've got a $2 donation from Mrs. Evil Doom who says, "I really appreciated binging on Dip, trying to catch up." Brackets, I didn't. That's fair. It's a hard challenge. And I love the session so far. Keep it up. Thank you, Mrs. Evil Doom. Appreciate it. Finally, our last donation to catch up on is Cimerez. Cimerez says, $30. Woke up at 4 a.m. for this segment. No drinking required. I need you in shape so you can entertain me for another 10 hours. And to that, Cimerez, I say, only 10 hours? Come on, we can do better than that. Okay.
I want you guys to know, like, Matt and I are going to bed after this.
That is fair enough, I think. I think before we finally get stuck into more of this Pact Fates stuff, let's talk about this Mile End. So for those of you who don't know, Mile End is a Pactdice campaign that Wildbow himself is running. We're going to do a bonus episode on that. We've unlocked that stretch goal, so that is perfect.
It's a very, very fortuitous segment to actually
it's actually
unlock that
perfect timing.
So we'll do an episode kind of talking about what's happened in Mile End using the docs that exist, and that should be a lot of fun. It's going to be interesting covering a story that wasn't, pre-planned, that kind of evolved based on the players. I think that'll be really fun.
Yes, and that means it's time to do our newest bonus goal milestone, which is a bonus mini-series. We're going to do a mini-series of Pact RPG. Possibly we'll have Scott and Matt on it. We haven't necessarily asked them yet, so we'll see. But
this is the first they're hearing of it, I believe.
It's coming out live.
Accurate.
But yeah, at the $2,000 amount, we will go do a Pact bonus mini-series on Pact RPG. Probably Pact Fates, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
When did this turn into a 148-day stream?
Why does that say 148 days to go? Is it because I used Australian?
Yes, you must have.
Used Australian.
Yeah.
We have to enter the date the wrong way around.
Sorry, yep.
Put
I
the
must
month
have
first.
03 first because of course it goes month, day, year. That totally makes sense.
It does.
My fault.
It does. How do you make Twitch chat pop out? because I cannot find it to save my life right
yeah,
now.
I couldn't find it either. So I don't know. Do you want to maybe try clicking refresh?
Go to the little wheel down at the bottom that says chat settings, and then there's an option that says pop out chat.
Just collapse it. Get it.
I don't see it though. That's
That's better.
clear chat manage. Maybe it's because I'm on the mod account. It's like
148 days to go. That's insanity. That's the surprise.
know.
We've unlocked another 147
Switch to
days of
non-mod
live
settings.
stream.
Okay, I found it. I found
Alright.
it.
Get ready to watch us go to work.
So we're going to get into the next segment of our character creation, which is our skill bidding. So what we're going to do here is we're each going to basically bid on skills, and of course, there are going to be conflicts that arise if people bid for the same skills here. So basically, how this is going to work is we're going to pick skills that we want to have our characters have, and we're going to bid on those. And if we conflict, we'll have conflicts. If there are no conflicts, someone will get the skills, and we'll keep going until everyone's selected as many skills as they want. I'll give you a quick run through of the list of skills. I think they're fairly self-explanatory. You can see them in the character sheet as well, just above anybody's character sheet. You can see the list up the top. But what we've got is artistry, which is how much you do art and craft, how good you are at it. Brawn, which is your physical prowess. Brawl, which is your ability to fight people. Connections, which is how connected you are to other people. Dexterity, which is your evasiveness, your speed, your agility. Guts is your fearlessness. Knowledge is how much you know about the world of Pact. Means is your access to physical resources. Rapport is how well you get along with people that you know or that you've met. Stealth is your stealthiness, how much you can sneak around. Technology is your ability to interact with modern technologies. Theatrics, your ability to act, deceive, do all that kind of stuff. Convince people, threaten them, that kind of good stuff. Practice is how good you are at practicing, and your wits is how quick you are thinking on your feet. How good you are at problem solving. So those are the skills that we're going to be competing for here. The way it's going to work is we're going to take it in rounds. You can see, actually, if we look at, this is good, if we look at the amount of skills here, you can see that they are sorted into +5, +4, +3, +2, +1. We're going to start by bidding on our +4 skills. So characters are going to choose, and actually I'm going to be bidding against you guys as well as the game master. I've got characters that are going to be bidding on skills as well.
Okay.
We're going to be choosing which skills we want to be at a great level, at a +4 level. And if one of us bids and nobody else does, they get that skill. If there is a conflict, then we're going to have to resolve that conflict, which is going to mean we're going to take some penalties. We'll get to that when we get to it, though. So first, let's bid for our great skills. So everybody, pick which skill you are going to bid on to be at a +4 or a great level. This is your best skill. This is your strongest skill. It's worth pointing out that as you bid on these skills, you're going to be losing what we call refresh at a rate of 2 per skill. Refresh basically means how much karma you have at the beginning of your session. So karma is your ability to impact the world around you. So the more skills you bid on, the less ability you're going to have to interact with the world around you. I'd recommend bidding on one great skill. Maybe if you don't get the one you want, you might bid on another one, but to start with, let's say one. So has everyone got an idea of what great skill they want to bid on?
Okay. There was a donation that they're saying to check before we start bidding.
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
know
Okay.
why, but
Let's take a look at it. This
It was
donation
a $10
says
one.
it's a $10 donation. Compel Elliot to get in conflict with another player over a skill. So actually, this is another thing we'll talk about,
Yes.
which is a compel. Yeah,
is
greed
great.
is a pretty good one. So
Yeah.
how are we going to do this? Maybe actually what we'll do is, to honor this $10 donation, I'm going to make everybody else pick first, and then Elliot, for your first round, you're only going to be able to pick from what other people have chosen. How about that?
Yeah. That makes sense.
This is exactly why greed was a
Was a
awful
great pick,
party
yeah.
party choice.
Yes,
Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
So Scott and
He
Matt,
doesn't
have
even
you guys-
want it. He only wants it because
I
you
just
want
wanna
it.
take it.
yeah.
Yes. Scott and Matt, have you guys picked what skill you want to go for first?
Hell yeah, Can't Sullivan Boy Reporters picked a skill.
Yep, Matt?
I'm not actually sure whether for a law magus like practice or theatrics makes sense, or whether I should go with like means because I'm supposed to be pseudo wealthy.
Yeah, true. I don't want to give you a specific answer to that. I think means is wealth, practice is your skill at practicing, which it seems like Rupert is kind of accidental in some ways, so maybe that's not the
Yeah.
right fit. But it's up to you, honestly.
I like the idea of like theatrics, yes. Practice, no.
Yes.
Um,
Okay. We'll
but,
keep it a little bit secret, and we'll see how we do.
okay.
Cool. Have you picked the one? All right.
I'm keeping. Yes, I've picked it.
So I should elaborate. In Broken Hill, there's a council of 3 key members, and they are going to be the ones bidding against you for skills here. The Council of Broken Hill.
Okay.
So I'm
assuming I can't try and steal one of theirs. I have to steal one of Matt and Scott's. Right?
Yeah, maybe we'll keep it to Matt and Scott's.
Yeah.
So let's all reveal. What have we all picked? Scott?
I have picked knowledge.
Yep. Matt?
Means.
Okay. For me, Yarima, the Lord of Broken Hill, has picked wits, which is clean. That's fine. Alira Smith, who is a alchemist, has picked knowledge. So we've got a conflict here already. That's good. And John Barrow has picked brawn, which is a safe bet. So, Matt, you've got yours at +5.
Well, hold on.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Because
sorry. Greed.
Means was actually the one I was looking at for greed anyway, because that is what greed would have wanted. And I think this works into the narrative we've already been building about greed being someone who's very angry for everything Rupert has built out of
I love that.
their previous. So I think the idea that I'm weakening Rupert's access to means a little bit fits in because greed would be going out of his way to try and sabotage Rupert's successful business and try to take parts of it.
Definitely. I absolutely love it. Let's resolve that conflict. First, maybe I'll resolve my conflict with Scott so that we can see it, and I'll kind of talk through it.
How do we...
Let's see how this works.
How do we do this?
So, Scott, you and Alira Smith, the alchemist on the council, have both opted for knowledge at a +5. So now it's our choice to decide how we're going to resolve this conflict. We can either choose to stay or concede. It's a bit of a kind of prisoner's dilemma kind of vibe.
Okay.
If one of us stays and the other concedes, then the one who conceded takes the skill at a rank 2 lower. So instead of a +4, it would be a +2. So it's a reduction to the skill. The one who stays, if the other person concedes, gets it. There's no penalty there. If we both concede, we both take it at a skill 2 ranks lower. And if we both stay, we repeat the conflict again and again until we resolve it. Now, it's worth pointing out, actually, if one person concedes and the other person stays, you can either take it at a rank 2 lower or take it at 1 lower and give the opponent a black mark. These black marks represent karmic debts that are going to be paid off as punishments later on in the system. So,
God, this is harsh.
Alira Smith and Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, they can decide, do they stay or do they concede? I've decided for myself.
I have decided.
Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. Okay, let's reveal it. Alira has decided to stay.
I have Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter has 100% decided to stay.
Oh gosh. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're both going to take a black mark. So let's take that as a note. +1.
Where do we put that?
I'll just put that somewhere on your character sheet. We'll resolve it by the end of character creation. And we get to go again. That conflict is not yet resolved. So are we going to do this again? Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. Alira Smith is ready. She has decided.
Yeah. So
she is
Kent
going
Sullivan,
to
Boy Reporter.
concede.
Okay, Ken Sullivan's staying, so give me my skill.
And Alira is going to take it at a lower level. She's not going to give you another black mark.
Okay. So, do I have it at +5?
You have it. Sorry, +4.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Make sure you've marked that you lose 2 of your refresh for that as well.
Okay.
So good.
Cool. Let's resolve the next conflict. So Rupert Beaumont and Greed, you are both conflicting over means. So let's decide, are we going to stay or are we going to concede?
Look, this isn't a tough decision for me if I get into character about what he's going to do here.
Okay.
Have we both decided?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, reveal it. Greed?
I mean, Greed's got to stay, right?
Rupert?
I don't want any trouble.
Now, Rupert, the key for you is you get to decide, do you take it at 2 rungs lower or 1 rung lower and enforce a black mark upon Greed?
Oh, I'm giving the black mark because I'm a law magus. That's how I operate.
Exactly right. So take a +3 to means for you, Rupert, and Greed, you take a +4, but you will also take a black mark. So yeah, start filling in your character sheets. We'll see. Let's just maybe check over Rupert and Kent so everyone can see how that's gone. Rupert should have a +3
who
means.
did you say?
Sorry, yes, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. My mistake.
Yeah.
And I use
knowledge.
At some point, that's going to get old, but not
I don't
in this
think
3
so.
hours.
Yeah. I mean, Greed's the same. Greed as a character would be awful to play for more than 1 session. But
Well, we'll see if we get to our stretch goal.
So Rupert, it's worth pointing out your refresh should now be at 8 points instead of 10.
Yeah, Rupert, stop trying to cheat, Rupert.
So hey, is there any benefit, like, because I'm a karma manipulator,
Yep.
is there any benefit to me just like passing on skills and just keeping a lot of karma going into the game?
That will basically mean you have more agency to do things in the world. We've talked about aspects and the idea of invoking aspects to do positive things. That's what you use fate points for. So when you, for example, use your aspect of fancier felines, for example, let's say you come across a cat and you want to learn more about this cat, you might invoke your fancier felines to justify, I know more about cats, so I'll know more about this character. That might cost your karma. So you'll be able to do more of that kind of stuff if you have a higher refresh.
Okay.
Cool. So we've resolved our first round of skill bids. Of course, characters don't have to pass. They can decide to opt in for another skill. So would someone else like to spend another 2 refresh to get another great +4 skill? I know, Rupert, you haven't got a +4 skill, but that's up to you whether you want to or not.
I'll pass on that tier. I want to try to maintain a karma lead, just because that's kind of the gimmick of this guy.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think I'm gonna have one of my characters get more skills. I'm gonna have.
Yeah, I think Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter is gonna go for some skills.
Oh, he's a greedy boy, is he? A greedy boy
Yeah.
reporter.
Yes, he is.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I've lost my notes. Here we go. So we'll have Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, and Yarima, who is the Lord of Broken Hill. They're both going to bid for their next round of skills. So pick out the skill you want to go for next, and I'll do the same.
Actually, yeah, Greed's going to get in on this.
Greedy's going to go for another one. Who would have thought? Okay, I'm picking my next one as well. So remember, you can't pick one that you've already picked.
Yeah.
Do we want to all go around and say what we've got? Greed?
Sure.
Yeah, Greed was thinking... Wait, explain connections to me again.
So connections is how many connections to other people you have. So
Yeah.
how well connected you are.
I saw Greed as being a bit of an institution in the town, so...
Okay,
Yeah,
connections?
Yeah, connections.
Sure. Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter?
Well, Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter was going for connections too.
It seems like Greed has
That'd be
collided
right.
again. I'll just quickly resolve. The Lord of Broken Hill, Yarima, has gone for means, and so he will take that as a +4. And let's resolve this conflict. So, Greed, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, let's choose. Are we going to stay or are we going to concede?
So, am I meant to be doing this as Greed or as...
I think as Greed. I mean, let Elliot come into it if he wants to, but...
Well, I'm just saying, like, narratively, I think I saw Greed as someone who doesn't have as many connections as he used to.
Yeah.
So, like, I'd be willing to concede for the sort of greater story.
Sure.
But if it's meant to be Greed bidding, then Greed's not going to concede.
I think it's up to you. I think let's go for what will give us the best story, not necessarily what Greed would do.
Okay.
Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, Greed, let's decide.
Yeah, I've decided.
Okay, Kent Sullivan, Kent Sullivan, a Boy Reporter, do you want to go first?
I've decided to stay.
Greed?
Yeah, Greed's going to concede for this.
Okay, so Greed,
Alright.
do you want to take a -2 to it or a -1 and inflict a black mark on Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter?
No, I'll go for the -2.
Okay, so take, it's at a +2, remember? So
But didn't I...
you were bidding at a
lose two?
+4, but
I
you
was?
lost 2, so it's
Okay.
now a +2. And Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, you can take connections at a +4. Remember, your refresh has now gone 2 lower, Greed and Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. Okay, cool.
Man, I'm killing it. This one kangaroo town.
Now, none of my other characters are going to go for any more of these. Are you guys going to go for any more?
No.
Yeah,
Matt,
that's
you're
gonna be
already out,
that's
so-
gonna
okay,
be
cool.
enough for the Boy Reporter.
Perfect. Next, we're going to bid on our +3, our good skills. So instead of costing 2 refresh per skill, these ones cost 1 refresh per skill. So they're cheaper. It's worth pointing out the maximum you can have is 1 plus the amount of great you have. So for example, for Greed, he has 1 great skill, so he can have 2 good skills at most.
Okay.
So for Kent Sullivan, who has 2 great skills, he can have up to 3 good skills at most.
Yep.
Oh,
You probably want 1 or 2 of these, maybe less if you got more great skills.
So if I have no great skills,
You can have 1 of them, Matt, at most.
So,
and by
what-
Matt, I of course mean Rupert Beaumont.
so
hey,
does that
you
mean
wanted to be Karma Boy?
okay? Does that mean I can have one more, or I just get the one that I have?
Oh yes, you already have 1. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
you are out of the bidding here.
Okay,
Perfect.
that's fine. I have a shitload of karma.
So you already have means at a +3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's do our bidding. So everyone look through their skills, and who knows what they want to take. Ooh,
So
I've got mine.
hold on. Is this like it's everything's reset, right? Because it's at the good level. So like
yes, you can't take any skills that you've already bid on, but
right.
anything else, yes. You've still got your
Okay.
existing black marks, but yeah.
Do you have the list
Sure.
over there?
Yep, I have the list, and you can see if you look at the
I just
yeah.
wanted to leave it on
give
Skype
some
there.
give some FaceTime for the boys here. Perfect. Cool. So the skills are artistry, brawn, brawl, connections, dexterity, guts, knowledge, means, rapport, stealth, technology, theatrics, practice, and wit.
Okay.
So if we picked out some,
Okay.
Yeah,
things?
I have my eye on something.
Okay, perfect. I've got some lined up as well. Let's do our bidding. I'll go with mine first. Yarima has bidded for rapport. Alira Smith has bidded for artistry. And John Barrow has bidded for theatrics. Greed, do you want to start off?
I put Greed down for dexterity.
Dexterity, okay. Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter.
Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, has bidded for stealth.
Stealth, okay.
Nice.
And Rupert Beaumont.
Oh, I thought I wasn't able to get any more.
Oh, yes, sorry. You're correct.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
seems like we've got a fairly clean round, that round. Nobody is conflicted. So everyone take a +1 in that skill. Sorry, a +3 in that skill. And we've got +3 practice for Alira, and we've got a +3 theatrics for John. Okay, and we can continue to bid. Are people going to continue to bid? I've got some continuations of my bidding.
Not for Greed.
Not for greed. Oh, interesting. Wouldn't have thought that. Kent Sullivan, are you still? Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, are you still bidding?
Thank you. And yeah.
Gonna do another one.
I love how they're loading up Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, as just this ultimate like skilled person
Yeah.
who's stuck here. It's so great.
Okay. I've got my bids. Have you got yours, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter?
I certainly do.
Okay. Yarima is bidding for guts. Alira Smith is bidding for wits, and John Barrow is bidding for connections.
All right, Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, is bidding for rapport.
Okay. So you can just take that at a +3. Make sure you mark that you have lost a refresh for that. But yeah.
All right. Just 4 karma left. Or wait, karma and refresh the same thing?
They're
I don't know.
similar. Refresh is kind of your currency at the character creation. Refresh won't really be a thing after character creation. It's just your currency for now.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be play into more if we were doing more than one session. So if we hit $2,000, maybe. But for now, I am tapped out of the bidding. Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, are you still going?
Oh yeah. We're going all the way.
Okay. Do you want to do some more?
Oh wait, no, not for good skills.
Not
no.
for good skills.
I'm,
Okay,
I'm
cool.
good. I'm good on goods.
So next we are at our other skills. That's our +2 skills and our +1 skills. So you can fill these out for free. As many +3 skills as you have, you can take 1 additional in your +2 skills. And as many +2 skills as you have, you can take 1 additional in your +1 skills. So feel free to just pick them. There's no bidding here. You just get them for free.
Oh, interesting. So I can get up to 3 +2 skills. What's what you're saying?
I believe so, yes.
And I can get 1 +2 skill and 1 +1 skill.
Sorry, let me double check.
Yeah.
So for Rupert, you can get 2 +2 skills and 3 +1 skills.
Oh, okay.
So it's 1 additional at each level.
Yeah. So
Cool.
you can have up to 1 more than you have in the higher rank.
Yes, the goal is that it will end up kind of looking like a bit of a pyramid,
Okay.
as you can see from your character sheets. Wits +2 connections.
Do I have to take them? Like I've only got 1. I really saw as
It's
thematically
probably
wrong.
worthwhile. I mean, there's no downside to it, but it's up to you. If you don't want to, that's okay too. Maybe if you decide not to take some, I'll give you an extra refresh for it, something like that.
Yeah. No, I think I'm fine.
Okay.
Greed is a simple character. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe take an extra refresh to exemplify that you've decided to not do some skills.
Ooh. All right.
Did I break any
gotta pick-
rules?
Let's take a quick look.
No, that looks good to me.
Yeah, that looks good. As long as it looks like a pyramid, you're in good shape.
Cool.
I'm trying to decide what. I guess I don't know. All right.
Are we all good on our skills?
Ken Sullivan is so.
Ken Sullivan, you're stacked.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter. Gotta say
Yeah,
it every
come on,
time.
guys.
With the
So I didn't have to spend any karma to take all those, though, did I?
No.
Trying to maximize my karma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good job.
So Kyrgyzstan has pointed out something that's in the rules, which is refresh defines how much karma you start with each session. So, for example, Rupert, you're going to start with a lot of karma each session. Kent Sullivan, it seems like you're going to start with a lot less karma, which means you'll be able to do less things by default until I inflict things upon you, which also gives you karma. So we've got our core skills. We actually get some bonuses based on these skills as well. So if we scroll down, I'm going to come back to a character sheet here. And if you look below your skills, you'll see something called stresses and you'll see something called consequences. Do you guys see that?
Right under
yes.
skills. Yeah.
So stresses and consequences are how we deal with things like health in Pact Fates. Stresses are the damage, either mental or physical, that you can take during a conflict. And consequences are your long-term effects. So let's say Greed, you get punched or you get shot and you're going to take a 2 damage physical consequence. What I will do is I'll go and I'll actually check off the stress box for 2 for you. Let's say you then get shot again and you have to take another 2 damage consequence. You actually don't have any more stress boxes for that. So you're going to have to actually take a consequence, which invokes an aspect on you that reflects an injury that you've got from this. So let's say you get shot in the leg and that's worth 2 points of damage. You're going to take a mild consequence that says, maybe I have a limp now.
Sure.
And that's an aspect, a core part of your character that is defined by the damage you've taken in a conflict. And that can be physical or mental.
Oh, cool. I like that.
Yeah, so the way that we actually get more stresses, physical and mental, based on our brawn skills and our wits skills. So if anyone has an average or fair, that is a +1 or a +2 in brawn or wits, you get that 3rd stress box. And if you have a good or a great, that is a +3 or a +4 in brawn or wits, you get the 4th stress box, which means you can take more stress in a conflict.
How do we make that like not be all?
Or fade it out.
Yeah.
Just change the text color to black up the top there.
Oh, okay.
So if I have fair guts, does that give me another guts?
It does not give you anything,
Okay.
I'm afraid.
Okay, that's fine.
So you get a mental though because you've got
Yes,
wits.
you've got average wits, which means you get 1 more mental stress box. So make that one black to exemplify that.
Interesting. But I do have fair guts, so.
But guts is not related to one of your stresses. So physical stresses is related to brawn.
brawn.
Mental
Gotcha,
is wits.
brawn.
Yep,
Yep.
perfect. So similarly, you guys might see down below that we have a bonus mild consequence. If anyone has a +5 in brawn or wits, which I don't think any of us do, we get additional mild consequences, but I don't think that applies to anybody.
I like Clever Donkey in the chat just screamed boy reporter. I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
It's very important to keep in mind, boy reporter. Perfect. So I think we've finished those out, have we?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
finally, we're rounding out the character creation stuff here. We need to resolve these black marks. So who has some black marks?
Kent Sullivan boy reporter has 1 black mark.
All right,
I believe
perfect.
Greed has one as well.
So what we're going to do is for each black mark you have, you're going to receive a consequence based on that conflict. So for each black mark you have, you're going to get inflicted a permanent, or not permanent, but a aspect that defines your character based on that conflict that you've had. So let me go through mine, for example, first. So the only person who got a black mark from me was Alira Smith, who got a black mark in conflict with Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, over the knowledge skill. Yeah? So what we got there is Alira and Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, were both struggling to attain knowledge, and they fought over it. And as a result, Alira Smith now has a conflict related to the fight that she had with Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. So I'm going to define that mild consequence, and I'm going to say Alira Smith, as a mild consequence, has been exposed by Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. So as a consequence, her life is now of somewhat public note. People know who she is, and
that's perfect.
Will pay attention to her if they see her because she's recognizable. So I'm going to call her exposed by Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Did I write like an expose in the town paper or something?
So as part of your conflict, you threatened her with, I'm going to expose all this stuff about you, and she didn't back down, and so you did it. You exposed her.
I did it. She deserves it.
So now she has a mild consequence. Let's continue resolving, because we have more black marks to resolve. Who has one? Greed?
Yeah, I have one that I believe I got from Kent.
Yes.
Sullivan
What was
Boy
the
Reporter?
skill that you were conflicting over? Do you remember?
Means.
Means. Okay. So you were conflicting with Kent
Oh.
Sullivan, Boy Reporter over means.
No, that's with Matt's
that
character.
was me
Yeah.
No,
actually.
actually,
Yeah.
yeah,
that was
sorry,
with
you're
Matt?
right.
Okay.
That was all with Rupert. Yeah,
That was with Rupert?
Rupert
Yeah.
gave me my black mark over
Okay.
means.
So,
Um,
what in your conflict over material wealth? What is the wound or the physical or mental wound that you have received that exemplifies that conflict?
It's a good question. Do you have any thoughts on this?
We'll
Matt?
get to some donations after we finish this stuff out. I think as well.
It seems related to this idea that like you were trying to get me to be wealthy so you could rob from me, and you actually succeeded in like siphoning away a large amount of my wealth, but because I am so altruistic, it really saps away at the power that you thought you were going to get from this. I'm trying to turn this into something different than the weakened by altruism aspect that you already have.
Maybe we can say something like shot himself in the foot. Like explicitly, he hurt himself through this conflict. And that's a good way to tap into a slightly different variation of that aspect.
Yeah. Okay. I like
Okay.
that.
Okay, cool.
So that is that mild?
Yep, take a mild. For black marks, you take them at the minimum possible amount. So if you had 2 black marks, you would take a mild and a moderate, for example.
Okay. Okay.
All right, who's next? Who's got a black mark?
Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter still's got one.
Yep. And what was that received in conflict with?
It was with the one that you just did for what's her face.
Ah, yes, for Elira Smith, the alchemist.
Yeah, so I wrote an expose about her.
So maybe it
What
like
did she do to me?
hurt Sullivan Boy Reporter's job at the
Or-
thing, turning her against the newspaper was bad for Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's
I
job.
I actually want to go with something a little bit simpler. I do like the poetic nature of that, but I think Elira Smith is someone who's very proud, and so if she's in a conflict, she's just going to go straight for something like disfiguring or making your life shit.
Okay.
And so I think she's going to go for something that's quite physical and like immediately terrible.
Oh, okay.
So as an alchemist, maybe she has cursed you with some like negative to your senses potentially. So maybe you're like partially blind, or your taste buds are inverted, so bad things taste good and good things taste bad. I
Oh
quite
my
like
God.
that actually. Let's do that. That's kind of a Lyra proud, spiteful kind of vibe.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, your taste buds are inverted.
Is that a mild consequence?
That
What
is a
is that?
mild consequence, which means it won't be as effective if I invoke it against you, more or less.
Okay.
Taste buds inverted. Ooh, that's brutal. I love it. Okay, Rupert Beaumont, let's talk about yours.
I don't think I have any black marks, do I?
No,
Oh.
I don't think.
What a karmic hero.
Yeah, really living
Yeah.
up to the
Yeah.
character goal. Absolutely.
All right.
I have one thing I'm trying to do with this character. So
Okay, we only have one final thing to do, which is introduce our stunts. So finally, you can spend refresh on gaining stunts. Stunts are basically your like magical powers, or not necessarily magical powers, but like specialities that you can do. So for example, I'm just going to make this up, but a potential stunt for Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter could be when you ask someone a question, they're compelled to give you a true response. That's
Ooh.
inspired by something that we'll get to later on the stream.
Yeah, can I just take that? I want that. That
So,
one.
for example, take that as a stunt. Let's say when you ask someone a question, you have a +2 to your check against compelling them to tell the truth, and that will
Okay,
cost
but
you
can
a
we
refresh.
Can we do something funny that only works if I introduce myself as Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter?
I mean, of course, that should be the case. So write that down as a stunt. Oh my god. Okay, hold on. I want to go back to the inverted taste buds thing because Lexicon Rort has just had a great...
Oh yeah, wait, that's not as good of a stunt as like we're in a world where people have to tell the truth.
Oh yeah. Well, the awakened have to tell the truth, not necessarily the
true.
unawakened.
That's true.
Lexicon Rort has just had said instead of the taste buds inverted, which I think is great from a horrible point of view, they've said, what if you are hard of hearing? So sometimes you mishear what people say in response to things.
Well, that's considerably worse.
Yeah, I really like that. So as a mild consequence, can we change it from being taste
Sure.
buds inverted to being hard, like mishears occasionally, maybe?
This year is occasionally, yeah.
because I really like that I can now compel that on you and make it so that you accidentally hear someone saying something different.
Yeah, that sounds great, Ruben. That sounds
Yeah,
real
isn't
great.
it fun? Does anyone
Yeah.
else have any good ideas for stunts? Remember, these cost 1 refresh per stunt. So take a few if you want. You don't have to. It's up to you.
I mean, considering I think Greed isn't really going to be a practitioner, he's more going to be someone who deals with the world through like radiation or that sort of thing. I feel like some stunts relating to like an ability to. See, I can't decide. Do you think greed would make people give stuff up or make them greedy?
Interesting.
I feel like the latter.
Okay. Make them greedy.
What does everyone reckon?
I think so. I think you're invoking the kind of spirit of greed within them,
Yeah.
which might
Yeah,
not
I mean,
necessarily be good to you, but it could be.
I'm trying to link this back to how conquest gained power, right? Like, is it like when people around you succeed in being greedy that makes more powerful? Is it when you specifically?
Conquest
Like,
seemed to get that power based on his relationship with the person. So, like, if he conquered someone, that gave him power. But if he was allied with someone who did conquering, he also seemed to get power.
True.
So greed is maybe the same. It's like, so someone like Rupert is really hurting greed because they're kind of on the same side, and he's refusing to be greedy.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if Kent is greedy, that helps me. Whereas if my enemies manage to take from me, that's really harmful.
Yeah, I like
So
that.
maybe I might just put that down as some sort of stunt, like an aura of greed or something.
Okay, so you
Sure.
can compel people to retain things, whether that's information, whether that's tangible wealth, and you'll have a +2 to doing that. So with a lot of time with stunts, what you'll do is if there's a specific situation, you can gain a +2 to that roll.
Okay.
We have a question from Pone in chat that says, I missed the start of the stream. Did they choose who is best girl? Pone, the segment you want to tune into is our Maggie's Madness, where we're going to be explicitly rating each of the characters against each other, and we will explicitly choose who is best of everybody. Lexicon Rort defined it as anti-butterfingers.
It's Green Eyes is best. It's Green Eyes.
Look, yeah, but we'll do the due
it's Green
process
Eyes.
just to make sure. I can back Paige or Isadora, I think.
Tiff.
Tiff is a strong.
It's Green Eyes.
Yeah, it's probably Green Eyes.
Does anyone else have any other stunts that they're interested in taking?
So I mean, we can workshop this, or you can tell me this is too powerful. But like, I like the idea that as long as Rupert is setting something right, then no one, like, it's harder to notice that he's done anything at all. Like people have a hard time paying attention to him as long as he's actually in the process of setting something right.
Okay, so like a subtle corrector, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, I really
maybe
like
it has
that.
to be minor.
I'm okay with giving it a +2, I think. Let's call it a
Okay.
+2 when you're trying to put something right, but in a way that isn't immediately obvious, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So remember, that costs 1 refresh for every stunt that you're taking.
We should catch up on some donations.
Yeah, I think we'll do donations. As soon as we finish the stunts, that's the
Okay.
end of the character creation. We can get into the actual content. Ooh.
Yeah, we gotta do that because
Yeah, we're
time.
starting to tick down on time. We've been about an hour and a half, hey. All right, let's check through some donations and we'll get into it. If people have more stunts that they want to take, you can actually take stunts during. It'll just cost you a fate and we'll reduce your refresh to match.
Yep.
So, here are some donations. First is from Aquabuddha, who says, Matt, Love Lost or Ratcatcher, who is best?
I mean, I think Love Lost is a better character as in the sense of being a creation. Ratcatcher
This is such a political
way more
fucking answer
fun.
over here.
Divisive.
You fucking running for president, Matt? Is that what we're doing?
You've got to keep the base
I
appeased.
love all characters equally.
I love all characters equally in different ways that are orthogonal to each other.
Okay, Buddha also donated $2 and says, Scott, can you drink again, please? Also, I never got my Little Shop of Horrors Downtown song. So sad. Is that referring to the Media MD prescription? I'm not sure.
No,
I think I said I was gonna sing it on an episode of What You Say, and I never did it.
Right, well, Scott will definitely do that on a future episode.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, we have a $10 donation from Lexicon Rort, who has typed this donation out in what we call Jaden Smith case, where every word is a capital letter. The spirits compel Rupert Beaumont to meow on no less than 3 occasions during play, 3 being a number of power. Meow not twice unless thou proceedeth to 3, nor shall he meow 4 times. 5 is right out.
That's perfect.
So you've been compelled there,
perfect.
Rupert Beaumont.
So does Rupert just get to pick when they are?
As long as it's 3.
Or okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hero of Must Chill Love Lost says, the spirits demand that despite hoarding everything, Greed maintains a pristine shrine to his host's favorite fictional villain, Love Lost.
Well, I mean, like that. He's hoarding the shrine.
Yeah, hoarding the shrine. And finally, Drunk Peter has donated $2 and says, Scott is right. Now, that's from about 2 minutes ago. I'm not 100% sure what it's referring to, but I'm sure it's just in the general case.
Let's just I think that's just a general
a
statement, and
rule.
I appreciate that.
All right. I think it's time to get into it.
Yeah, let's play some game.
We've got our characters. We'll just quickly take a look. We've got some refresh. Let's just set our karma value to be equal to our refresh. So for greed, that's 5, and you guys can all set it as you go.
Gosh, I have no
Yeah,
karma.
count to 0 out of 3. Thank you, Rupert. Kent Sullivan, how much refresh have you got? 3 is actually an okay amount. Let's talk a bit more about this because it relates to compelling aspects, which is the $10 donation goal. If somebody donates, so actually I'll talk about it from my perspective first. As the game master, what I'm going to be doing is sometimes I'm going to be compelling your aspects. So for example, let's say Greed is going along and has to give something up in order to progress. I might invoke a compel of Greed, saying, Greed, actually, because of your character, because of your aspect of being a incarnation of Greed, I'm actually going to say you're not going to give that up, and despite the ramifications to your character, you're going to have to hold on to that thing. What that means is, Greed, you get a +1 to your fate counters, so to your karma. So you have 1 more karma token to spend, but as a character, you can't do the thing that I've compelled.
Yep, okay.
We're actually going to say that if somebody donates $10 as well, they can choose a compel in a situation. So if somebody
and they've already been doing that, I think. Right?
Exactly. People have already been compelling, but basically, as people have already been doing, they can continue to as we continue. So if somebody thinks, actually, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, would, instead of chasing down this specific thing, would dive deep into this lead over here, carrying him away from the story. If they donate $10, we can compel you to do that, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
And look, I'm there for it.
You're there for it. All right. Yeah. Let's dive into it. So our story takes place in Broken Hill, a small town, a fairly rural town in New South Wales, which is the state that we're in here in Australia.
Wait, you got states over there?
I know we have.
That's crazy.
We have
They're
a
not
kind
quite
of
as united.
states. Yeah. So Broken Hill as a town is one that, as Elliot has kind of alluded to, used to be quite prosperous. Actually, if you guys know the company BHP, which is a petroleum company, that started in Broken Hill before
It stands for
out of the world.
Broken Hill Petroleum.
Oh my God, I used to work for BHP.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Broken Hill has hit a bit of a downturn as the mining boom faded. It's become a hub for shearing, for sheep shearing, for wool production, but has kind of faded since then. And in fact, the mining prosperity of the town has led to some health risks in the town. So it's definitely on the down and out. As a council, the Council of Broken Hill that you guys all know of, consists of 3 key members. It consists of Yarima, who is an other who manages Broken Hill. He's fairly altruistic, but is definitely in it for himself. He sees it as keeping the people pacified is a good way to keep himself in power. As long as everyone's moderately happy, nobody's going to challenge him. And that's been true for the past maybe 5 or 6 years or so, since Greed made a bid for power.
Yep, sure.
We also have Alira Smith, who is an alchemist who actually mostly lives as a human. She's a practitioner, but mostly lives her human life and just comes in to kind of get into the practitioner world when she's requested to. She sees Yarima as somebody who is definitely good to be the Lord because she doesn't have to worry too much about it. He'll take care of things. She can come in when she's needed. We also have John Barrow, who is a shaman who basically travels around communing with spirits. He loves to basically travel around Australia, and in fact, he's probably only in Broken Hill for about 20% of the time. And right now, actually, he's not in Broken Hill. He's off traveling around, communing with spirits, and kind of, he's a bit of a hippie. He's a bit kind of likes to explore things, that kind of vibe. You guys are practitioners known to Yarima. You've all met Yarima on different occasions. And he sometimes tasks you with dealing with the things that he can't be bothered to deal with, basically. He'll send you on little quests that he thinks are not worthwhile. I just want to call out this comment. Clever Donkey in chat says, the hill broke. Is that the hill that Victoria threw Etna into? And yes, that is canon.
Yeah, definitely.
So you guys kind of travel around doing quests together every so often. Your paths cross fairly frequently. Obviously, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, you have to look out for Rupert, and Greed, you guys have to look out for each other. Exactly.
Yep.
Let's start our story by saying that Yarima has actually given you a summons. He's requested that you all meet with him because he has a task for you. And take it away from there.
So have we gone?
Wait, what?
So Yarima has requested that you come and meet with him. You guys have just woken up. Maybe you've got an email in your inbox, which is brokenhill.practitioners@gmail.com. Actually, no. Let's make that a Hotmail. I think is a bit more apt.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah.
And you guys have met. You said, okay, Yarima needs us. And you guys are maybe in your headquarters, which is potentially Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter's house, the basement of his house, so that it's a bit out of the way.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, does not have a house.
Yeah.
Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, has a walk-up apartment.
Yes. I should let you know that Broken Hill has a few aspects as well that you guys might want to invoke if you want to do things, or I might compel to do things against you. So some of the aspects of Broken Hill that you guys know about, there are some secret ones, so don't look at my screen,
sorry.
Elliot. Come on. But the aspects of Broken Hill that you know about are, 1, drying desert oasis. So it used to be a real hub, but it's starting to fade down. The second aspect is calm and controlled populace. So the population is definitely calm and fairly under control. The third aspect of Broken Hill here is small business. So it's a small town, but also small business from the underbelly sense. There's an underbelly of practitioners, but it's fairly small. It's not too big.
Okay.
So you guys, if you would like, can spend fate points to invoke those if you think they'll do things in your favor. Otherwise, I'll compel them against you, maybe.
Sure.
Okay.
So you guys are in Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter's house. You've got a message. Yarima has told you, I want to meet with you guys. I've got a job for you. Take it away. What do you do? Sorry, one more thing. We've got a question from the Chubb509, which says, what year is it? We're going to set this in the current year, so we're in 2020 here.
Okay. So it is 2020. So Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, pours himself a very stiff drink.
Yep.
Very stiff drink as I do this. And I'm like, well, guys, it's Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter over here. Are we going to go?
Well, do we have time for me to feed the cats before we head over there?
Is that where you're? That's the voice you're doing.
Very altruistic voice there.
Just trying to stay under everybody's radar.
Do we have time for Rupert to feed the cats?
No, we don't have fucking time for you to feed the fucking cats. Let's go.
Oh, wow. Sorry. Just sorry to cut you off there, Scott, but I think we just heard an accent from Greed over here. Do you want to say that again?
I'll try to go like full Dobbo accent.
full-
No.
I love that.
That's good.
So here's what I'm going to do straight away. I'm going to compel you, Rupert Beaumont, and you can accept or reject this compel. But I'm going to compel you to say you now have an aspect of being worried about your cats because you didn't have time to feed them.
I'm already there. I'm worried about the cats.
So you can take one additional fate point and add that aspect to your character sheet.
Okay. Where do I put my fate points?
Up the top, next to your refresh, there's a section for fate points. You can see. Oh, sorry. Fate points are karma. They're the same thing.
Oh, okay. So I get another karma.
Mixing up my. Yes, you get one more karma.
Okay.
All right. So you guys decide to head off to Yarima's.
Yeah.
Place?
Before we leave, I'm like, Greed, have you seen my jacket?
Yes.
No. Where?
Don't worry.
And with that,
It is safe.
Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, gives the oldest, longest sigh in the history of sighs, and just walks out of the door.
and with that, you
I
guys-
look around for the jacket just to see if I could possibly set this right without any further conflict.
Does he set it right? So
I like to imagine Rupert's just ordering some jackets off Amazon on his phone or something. Like,
now,
priming.
Yes,
it's worth
no.
pointing out, they're about 25% more expensive to get to Broken Hill.
So I've already bought you a new jacket.
Wow.
It's in the mail.
Perfect.
Well,
Okay, so let's continue on. You guys have headed to the school where Yarima is the headmaster. So in addition to being the mayor of Broken Hill and the lord of Broken Hill, he's also the headmaster of, what was it called? Something Wards?
It's a Burke Ward Public School.
Ward's High School. So you guys head to the high school to Yarima's office, and you walk in. So Yarima, obviously you all know this, but I'm describing for the spirits here. Yarima is to the unawakened, he seems like a short but fairly normal-looking man. To you guys, he actually seems, his skin is tinted redder than is humanly likely. He's about, if you imagine a hex value, he's probably about maybe an 88 into the red theme there. So he's starting to get pretty red.
Oh, okay. Now
Right.
I know what
Yeah,
that
thank you.
color
Thank
is.
you.
Right.
Now you'll understand, of course. He's basically, he looks like an Aboriginal man, but tinted red. He's short. He's fairly short. He's probably about 1.5 meters tall, so quite short. And you guys have all met him before. So as you kind of knock, you're shown into his office by his assistant, Janine, who shows you in and says he's been waiting for you guys. And he comes, you guys walk into his office, and he's sitting at his chair in a typical kind of Bond villain sort of way. He looks at you and he says, Kent. And he doesn't call you Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. He says, Kent, Rupert, Greed, and his tone takes a bit of pain as he talks to you, Greed. He says, welcome. I have a task for you.
I walk up to him and I hold out my hand and say, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
He reaches out and he shakes your hand. And as he does so, we're actually going to get into a bit of a conflict here because Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, you've just uncovered one of Yarima's hidden aspects, which is don't shake his hand.
Oh my god!
So really written.
It's written right here.
Oh my
Elliot,
god,
you
he's
can
actually
see.
got that written
It's written
down.
right here. Don't shake his hand. Because for those of you who aren't up to date with your Dreamtime mythology, Yarima is actually a Yarima Yahoo, which is a kind of Aboriginal folklore vampire of sorts, crossed with a bit of a frog, kind of half toad, half vampire, I'd say. And on his hands, he has suckers through which he will drain your blood/energy. So, of course, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, you have a bit overlooked your knowledge of Yarima here because you've just reached out to shake his hand, and we're going to get into a contest here. Let's go into a contest. Yarima is going to contest your, let's say, your dexterity, and he's going to contest it with his practice. So our first dice roll here. Let's roll some dice.
Okay.
Ooh, that's okay.
I got a 1.
Okay, so Yarima got a 2, which means he's beat you, and with that, he's going to inflict a bit of an aspect on you. He's going to inflict the aspect low energy.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, was pretty low energy anyway.
Why do you give this to him?
Do you want it as well? I guess Yarima then extends his hands out to you, Rupert. Do you shake his hand?
I had my hands firmly in my pockets the whole time.
And Greed.
And,
Grease just stares at him.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So other aspects that are relevant here to Yarima is he is a thirsty benevolent, and his other aspect is he meets at the school. So we might compel or invoke some of these aspects later.
Okay.
Okay, so now that he's sucked all the energy out of you, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Just another day for Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Just another beat being chased down.
That was me in character saying just another
yes,
day for
perfect.
Kent and I pull a flask out of
I
my
was about to
pocket
say,
and take a swig.
Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, definitely
Actually,
has a flask.
maybe as a general rule, I'm going to assume that anything you guys say is going to be said in character unless you explicitly say otherwise.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
So Yarima says to you, thank you, Kent. Now, I've called you all here because I have a bit of I suppose a situation has developed. How familiar are you with Yuntiri? He says.
Should we roll a wits check and see.
maybe a knowledge check.
Should I know?
If you guys want to try
knowledge.
and think if you might know what this is, roll a knowledge check for me. So I've assigned a difficulty to this in my head, and if you succeed, I'll tell you about Yuntiri.
I got a 5.
Yep.
I got a 1.
Okay, Rupert, you do not know what he's talking about.
Yep, never mind my role. It's not worth mentioning.
So, Rupert, you start to say no, just as Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, starts to weigh in about what he knows about Yuntiri, which is Yuntiri is basically one of the most powerful spirits across Australia. Yuntiri is the spirit of the desert, a spirit that has started small but has eventually, over time, especially with all the environmental troubles that Australia is facing, has grown stronger and stronger and stronger over time. And so Yuntiri, starting as a base of power in kind of central Australia, has started to spread across all of the other states, spreading into South Australia, Western Australia, Northern Territory, all of these places, as the desert grows and takes over more and more of the land mass that is the continent of Australia.
I look very proud in my knowledge of this fact.
Yes, so you kind of spout out what you've just said. And Yarima, for a moment, almost looks impressed at you, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. And he says, yes, correct. Now, what you may not know is there is a bit of a coalition among the states around Australia. You see, as Yuntiri spreads out and power grows, there are focal points, key towns around Australia that act as barriers, places stopping the spread of power, places where Yuntiri's agents will attack and try and overwhelm the town, but usually we're able to fight him back. One of these, we call them key points. One of these key points, these key towns around Australia, a town of Marwee, of about 8 hours drive to the northwest of us now. One of these key points, well, we haven't been able to reach it. For the past week or so, we haven't been able to make any contact with any of our agents in Marwee, and so I'm starting to fear that the power of Yuntiri is spreading further and further.
I'm like frantically writing notes down as you're telling me this stuff.
Yeah.
In my not implement book.
That sounds really bad.
Yes, it is. Now, obviously, I don't care for Marwee, shall we say. It is just a town. There are many like it. But as a key point, it is quite important in preventing the spread of Yuntiri to the south, to places like Port Augusta and Broken Hill. We really want to make sure that whatever might be going on, it's not, how can I say this delicately? It's not going to affect me, I suppose. So my job is, what I want to do is send you all to Marwee to see what's going on and deal with whatever might be happening there.
Hey, what's in it for Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, buddy?
Yes, same.
Well, I had hoped that I could compel you to act altruistically in the effort of saving the townsfolk of Marwee. It's a town maybe 200 strong.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go.
What materials does the town have? What is their value?
I know they are a strong town that is passing on the road that travels between the states. So people often pass through Marwee on their way through. It has a bit of a tourist industry. Is that relevant to you? And he almost looks down as he says your name. Greed?
Hey, Greed. I mean, this looks like a pretty good story, buddy.
Very well.
Okay, so we're actually taking it just for the story, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
I don't care about these
Greed
people.
is definitely thinking he does not want this desert spirit expanding to the point where he can start to take Broken Hill, because that's Greed's territory.
Yeah, totally.
Look, 200 people dead sounds like a Pulitzer to me.
Yeah.
Mysterious, unexplained death.
And we need to help these people because it's just not right.
Speaking of not right, Kyrgyzstan has just donated $2.34 to round out our donation goal to a nice round whole dollar number. So thank you, Kyrgyzstan.
Thank you.
That was bugging me too. So
Thank you, Kyrgyzstan.
It sounds like you guys are pretty keen on taking Yarama's quest here.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't like Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, doesn't want to like save the town.
Oh, I mean, greed's gone pillaging. Like,
So you guys have your own motives for this.
Greed's hoping they're all dead and he can take everything.
I'm gonna save the town.
Okay.
I look over at Rupert and I'm like, you're gonna do that thing where you like help people again, aren't you?
It's just not right, man. You know, I mean, like it's not their fault that they're in the path of this evil spirit. I mean, it kind of is because they built their town on the evil spirit's like land, but they've lived there their whole lives, and
Yarama
and
weighs in here at that, Rupert, and says, well, this didn't used to be Yantiri's land. There were other towns that have been forgotten since that once existed in the middle of Australia.
see what I mean, man? It all gets out of hand. You see, look, you let one thing slide, and then the next thing, and then before you know it, you're having to deal with a whole bunch of hassle that you never signed up for. I say we just go deal with this now, nip it in the bud, and then we just can sleep at night. We don't have to worry about it anymore.
You know what, Rupert? Yantiri says, I agree. It is the right thing to do. So go and do it. He gives you some more information about this, which is the specific connection that he's been talking to is a scourge, a practitioner who lives in Maori, whose name is Angus Wilson, who he usually maintains regular connection with just to check in on things. And he tried to reach out to him about 2 or 3 days ago and didn't get any response. And since then, Yarama has reached out to other people and found out that actually Angus Wilson hasn't been heard from in about a week. So seemingly within that time, something has gone wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess it's road trip time.
Yeah.
So Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, a little drunk right now. Suddenly like stands up straight and like the drunkenness goes away and he goes, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, on the case.
And how does everyone else react to that?
Greed calls shotgun.
That's just normal. I assumed it was Greed's car though.
Yeah, whose car is this?
Do we know what form Greed has?
Yeah, what does Greed look like?
I kind of pictured Greed as like the stereotypical like an overweight. He probably has a monocle, like, you know, your standard Monopoly man type caricature.
Can we touch on what Greed looks like to the unawakened? Because I think that's so beautiful and worth diving into. Do you remember what you said to me? Do you remember this?
No.
So basically what Elliot said to me, and I don't know if you're committed to this or not, but Broken Hill is a town that thrives on its wool exports, and Greed has now defined himself by looking like a slightly metallic sheep.
That's right, yeah. A silver, like, yeah, that's right,
Like
because
a Monopoly
it's a town that's now wool, and the metal they used to export was silver. So I was picturing like a silver woolen sheep.
Basically, used to be more silver, but has morphed into a sheep over time.
Yeah.
Probably at great dismay to Greed.
So if I say, Greed, I'm a little too drunk, you're going to have to drive, what would that look like?
It will be not too out of place for Australia, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but also, like, I mean, the familiars usually have the ability to switch between their old form and their familiar form, right? So Greed can take the form of, like, old fat Monopoly man.
So I love this comment by Clever Donkey in chat that says, Greed tried to hijack the Golden Fleece mythos, but fucked it up.
Yeah,
a bit."
exactly. I loved it as this broken inversion of the
That's great.
of the Golden Fleece mythology.
Yes. We got a donation by Boo Boo Smummy, who donated $33 and says, actually, they didn't say anything. So thank you, Boo Boo. Thank you for supporting. So
you could have made me do something.
Yeah,
but
we could
now
have
I'm
made
just
somebody
going to
do something, but now we're not going to do anything.
But thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So you guys are going to start heading out to Murray. And actually, DDev has linked in chat that Murray is a real place. You can check out the Google Maps for it. It's about, I think, a 10 or 12-hour drive from Broken Hill to Murray. So I'm interested to hear, what do you guys do? What do you talk about on your drive to Murray?
So yeah, I definitely think Greed took the front seat and is controlling the music and is not letting anyone else have a say on what's playing.
I love
Wait, so
this
who's
character.
driving?
Yeah, who's in the driver's seat? Maybe who has the highest technology stat? Does anyone have technology as a stat?
No, Greed doesn't.
I have a +1 technology.
I have a +1 technology, but I'm definitely drunk and in the back seat.
I like the
I
idea
think-
that it's Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter's car.
But I think
Yes.
Rupert
But
volunteered
he's
to
too
drive.
drunk, so
Rupert was like, no, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, let me drive.
So
Yeah.
Kent's probably
Alright.
passed out in the back.
Yeah.
Greed is sitting in the front, controlling everything as a backseat driver, and
Just, like, chillaxing in the
Rupert's
back.
just suffering through this drive.
Yeah, I wish I had had time to feed the cats. They're not going to be happy.
I've got some bad news, guys, which is that the White Duke has just donated $10 and says, the spirits compel Broken Hill's aspect of drying oasis. The car runs out of fuel 4 hours from Marie.
Oh,
no.
That's not what you want.
Yes. So it looks
Forever.
like we've actually run out of fuel a little bit away from Marie. And so we're actually going to be in another small town a little bit away. I'm looking at my Google map now. Yes, okay. We're going to be in a town called Farina, which is basically a old town that's even more run down than Marie, which is already fairly small, and is basically just a single stop petrol station. So you guys, of course, stop, run out of fuel here, stop for fuel, and you head to the petrol station. Unfortunately, the guy behind the counter, just a normal man, looks at you and says, I'm sorry, we've just run out of petrol. We had our last shipment, and there's nothing left.
Of course. How is it possible that I go from one shitty town to a shittier town? Hey, Greed, can't you, like, I don't know, greed some gas?
Yeah. So I guess Greed asks the guy, "What do you have in your car?"
Well, I have petrol in my car, but I need that to get home.
Give it to us.
So let's invoke an
Yeah.
aspect here.
I feel like this has got to be an aspect.
I'm actually going to compel one of your aspects here, Greed, to say that your incarnation of greed powers are actually going to make this guy much more likely to not give up his petrol without some kind of convincing.
Damn it.
So I'll give you a karma point for that, but it means you're not just going to be able to talk him very easily into giving up his petrol. We might have to get into either a physical or a mental conflict to resolve this.
I don't think Greed is the physical combatant type.
Maybe mental, though.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? Are you guys going to... So if we get into a situation where you and a character have a conflicting point of view, we can get into what's called a conflict. This would be a mental conflict because you're not trying to hurt each other. Actually, are you trying to mentally hurt each other or are you trying to convince each other?
I think at this point, Greed is just planning to go and take the car.
Okay. So you guys are literally just going to swap cars. So I'm going to call that a bit of a mental punishment. So instead of being a contest where there's nothing actually given up, it's a difference of opinions. This is actually a conflict where something's going to have to be given up.
I mean, I'm just saying that's what Greed's probably going to try and do. I'm sure like Rupert has something to say about that. And probably even Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, who doesn't want his car just fucking left in this pit stop in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, what about my car, Greed?
See, I'm capable of shooting the gap between altruism and keeping my head down in a situation like this.
Okay.
Right.
And just kind of letting things happen.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's define sides to this conflict. One side is stealing the new car with petrol and leaving Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's car, which actually a bird on a motorcycle donated $10 to say, I compel Greed to straight up steal the keys in the car, which is exactly what we're doing. So I'm glad we're all on the same page here. So there's one side which is steal the car, leave the old car, steal the new car. And there's the other side to this conflict of what? What are you trying to achieve here? Maybe Kent Sullivan? Are you trying to do something different?
Kent Sullivan wants to get his car up and running, presumably.
Yeah, I like my car. It's a shit box, but it's my shit box.
Okay. So let's have this argument out. Maybe let's start with Greed and Kent Sullivan, and we'll do a bit of a contest here.
Hey. He's a boy reporter.
Sorry, yes. Greed and Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Thank you.
I think the stat that probably applies the most here is rapport. We're trying to convince each other of something. Unless you're trying to make a bluff or some other play where you want to do theatrics or something like that.
No.
I think Greed is being pretty straight up about what. And I assume he hasn't even said this. Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, probably just knows that when Greed started walking outside, that he was going for the car.
Yeah. Okay. So
You've been my familiar for 15 damn years.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do what I say, just the one time. Don't leave my car.
So I'm going to make you guys do a skill check here, competing in rapport. But if either of you wants to, you can spend a karma point to invoke either one of your aspects or compel an aspect from the opponent. So, the opponent in air quotes. We've got Kent Sullivan, boy reporter on one side and Greed on the other side. Rupert, I'm assuming you're kind of staying out of this a bit.
I'm staying out of that. I'm actually keeping an eye on the gas station attendant and sort of getting ready to run interference if this attracts his attention.
Yeah, perfect. So you'll be ready, and we might resolve that in a second. But first, we'll do this conflict between Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, and Greed. So we'll do a contest of rapport. Does anyone have any aspect of themselves or the opponent that they want to try and invoke?
Hold on, Greed's willing to meet in the middle a bit here.
That I don't think is a sentence that I ever expected to hear.
No, in the sense that, well, okay, yeah. If it's my car, I'm so bad at character voices.
Car?
No, if I take this car and it becomes
do it in the Australian, do it in the Bogan voice.
Okay, if this becomes my car, if I take the car, I can give you the petrol, but you must give me something in return.
That's a pretty good argument.
Wait, hold on. So, you're gonna take the other car and give the gas from the other car to my car, and then I have to give you something for that? It's not your car. You're just gonna steal it.
Well, all that I take is mine.
Wait,
Look,
I'm sorry. I got to put a pause to this for 1 second because you just got a $50 donation here, which I'm pretty sure is from your family here, Elliot. And that donation is from I Love Boo Boo's Booty and says, Boo Boo, you're the best mistake I ever made from Mum. Also, Ratcatcher is better than Love Lost from Hamwise. I came up with the booty thing. Sorry, no sorry from G, which is one of your other sisters.
Yeah.
And your dad just says, is outside in the garden.
Yeah, no, that sounds like my family.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, folks.
I thought for a
coherent
second
as
there
ever.
your family was saying they supported Ratcatcher over Love Lost, and I was very confused.
They did explicitly say that. Ratcatcher is better than Love Lost from Hamwise.
My sister did, yeah.
Oh, your sister did.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Wow.
what was your argument, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter? It's just trying to understand. So what Greed is saying is he's gonna take the car. It will then be his, and he can give you from that car some petrol. Do you have any?
But he obviously he can't. He has to get to, he
He
can't
has to
have
own the car first.
Well, no, and he can't just give the petrol away because
Yes, it has to be exchanged.
yeah,
That's
and
true.
he has to feel like he's winning for an exchange to be acceptable to him.
I'm looking up the Kelly Blue Book value of the car on my phone, so that I'll know how much money I have to leave.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, as long as we get to leave here in my car, I don't give a shit. What do you want? What do you want?
Give me the car.
My car?
Yes.
So now he'll own 2 cars.
No.
Do you have a counter proposal there, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter?
This is ridiculous. So wait. Oh my God. Fucking Greed. I don't know if I have a counter proposal to this.
All right, let's get into a contest here. So I'm gonna make you roll rapport for the final time. Does anyone have any aspects that they want to invoke against their opponent here?
What are Greed's aspects again?
So Greed's aspects, we've got 1. He is an incarnation of greed. 2. Taking and hoarding. 3. Unable to give. He is stuck with Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. He is weakened by altruism, and he has shot himself in the foot as a mild consequence from before. If you can explain a way to use one of those aspects, you can spend a karma point and get a +2 to this roll.
No, I can't think of a way to use them.
Okay. Greed, do you have anything? So to run through Kent Sullivan's
Wait, no,
aspects-
I'm gonna use like weakened by altruism because you're offering something.
Yeah, no, I
That's
think
true.
like unable
He's
to
offering
give.
to do something, yeah.
Unable to give.
Yeah.
I think
Okay,
would be valid
spend
as
a
well.
karma point there, Scott. Sorry,
I will
Kent
do it.
Sullivan, boy reporter. Now, of Kent Sullivan, boy reporter's aspects, we have shares the successes or failures of Rupert, struggling to break free, low energy, and mishears occasionally. Do you have anything that you're going to try and compel there?
No, I can think of one that would be a bit of a stretch, but wait, no, I think we'll be right to try it.
All right, so let's roll our rapport skill.
Okay.
And so
And I get
as
to
a
add
reminder,
2, you
greed,
said?
That's
you
a
have
flat 0
a
for
0 for
greed.
there, and Ken Sullivan has a +3, plus another 2 for the.
Jeez, I'd have to really.
So you really have to roll high here, and you did
No,
not.
I did not. No, there's no way I can win that.
Yeah, I got a 3.
Okay. Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, not only did you succeed in this contest, you succeeded with style because you succeeded by 3 or more. So I'm going to give you a bonus here, which means that not only have you succeeded in this contest, any other contests you have for the remainder of this session with greed, you're going to get a bit of a bonus too as well.
That's probably for the best.
If I can put this dude in his place over here.
Yeah. And so, okay, it sounds like greed. You've taken the plan now is you're going to steal this car from this gas station attendant, and you have been somehow compelled into, like, in repayment to services already rendered to
Yeah.
Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, you're going to give him this petrol.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we still have to steal this car.
Yeah, I was about to say, what do I roll to steal cars?
Let's just try a stealth roll, greed. Let's do a
Oh.
flat stealth
Oh,
roll, and I'm
boy.
going to contest it with my gas station attendant. Now, is
Can
anyone going to
somebody
try and
distract
help
them?
out?
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
anyone
I'm going to try to distract the gas station attendant. I'm just going to be like, so what kind of cigarettes do you have?
Perfect. I love it. Do you have any rapport skill there, Rupert?
I don't. I have theatrics is probably the closest thing, and I have
what's your theatrics at?
it's +2.
Okay, I'll give a +1 to Elliot's to Greed's roll from this. So I'm going to contest that with my wits of this gas station attendant. Let's see how I do.
He's not very witty, is he?
Well, he got a -3, so apparently not.
Hey, yeah, I got a 1 plus Matt's generous donation.
Okay, so here's what happens. Oh, sorry. So I got a -2, and you got a +1.
Yep.
Okay,
Oh,
so that
well,
was-
and then plus Matt's plus.
Okay,
one,
so +2 in
yeah.
total. Perfect. And no stealth bonus from that?
No, Creed's not stealthy.
So actually, that was a success with style. So I'm going to give you a bonus in a bit, but we'll explain how it goes down first. The first thing that happens is you creep in as a sheep. You sneak around behind the counter of this, what is realistically probably a 7-Eleven, I would say.
Oh, there's not many of those out in the country.
Oh, you reckon?
It'd be
Okay.
a shell.
A shell? Okay,
Yeah.
it's a shell. So behind the counter, the gas station attendant is standing, and you can see there's some keys on a hook behind the counter. You sneak behind the counter as Rupert is asking about the current cigarettes. And this guy actually turns around to kind of start fiddling with the cigarettes. And as he does that, you kind of sneak in and with your sheep mouth, grab the keys and sneak out, successfully stealing his car.
Sheep mouth.
Yeah. So you've now stolen the keys to this car, you've siphoned off the petrol, and because that was a success with style, I'm going to give you a bit of a temporary bonus to your stealth. Let's say that you get a stealing bonus. So if you try and steal stuff for the rest of this session one time, I'll give you a +2 bonus to that as well.
That is
So feel free
probably
to
going
note
to come
that down
up.
if you want. Yeah, I suspect it will. So you guys have stolen petrol. You've recovered from this compel of having to deal with the low petrol situation. So you're now back all in Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's car.
Well,
Yeah.
before that, I say
Yep.
thank Meow, but I don't think I need any cigarettes.
All right, that's one. That's one down. Thank you, there, Rupert.
So, are we like we've stolen the car to get the gas?
Yeah.
Are we also gonna take the car?
No, I think we just took all the petrol out of it,
Okay.
and Greed has stashed it somewhere because he wouldn't just leave it. So I think we've driven it just out of town, like hidden it somewhere, and then like left it for Greed to come back to. And
Yeah.
I think that's what we've done, and then we've put the remaining petrol into Ken Sullivan Boy Reporter's car, and now we're driving off.
And I'm thinking of a headline: "Rash of car thefts strike across Australian countryside."
So you're gonna start reporting on it already.
Yes.
And I make a little like map reminder in my phone, so that I can later tell the petrol station guy where his car is.
Can you guys possibly put up on the screen what Peter just?
Yeah, I'm putting it up right now.
I think Reuben's trying to.
It's so perfect. ZFYN2A. Yep. So Peter donated $2 and has sent through an image of how he imagines greed, and it's not quite loading for some reason. Hold on, it's coming through stream. Just give us a moment.
Yeah. Oh.
Do you wanna?
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it in a second. Grandpa Reuben doesn't do computers. Thank you, Ishimura. No, we're on different computers, so I can't just copy it across. Anyway, so you guys are back on your way in the car, loaded up with fuel, and you make your way, and you find eventually Maori. And actually, as you approach, you start to notice there is a huge sandstorm blowing around the town, and you kind of circle around it. The road would go straight into the sandstorm, but you're a little uncertain about whether you should do that. As we get to Murray, I'm actually going to call out a specific aspect that we see here, which is an aspect called town whipping. Sand whipping. The town is being whipped by sand here in this sandstorm, so much so that you don't know actually if you can get in or not. And that's the town that you roll up to.
Well,
what does that mean?
How many powers that we can use to
what
fight
magic?
against?
I don't actually know what I can do. What can I do?
That's up to you guys. And so, like Pact, the system of Pact Fates is open to interpretation. If you guys have defined yourselves by aspects, you can apply them in ways to help with situations, regardless of whether you think up front it will help in that specific situation or not.
Is there we're outside the town? Is there any buildings outside the town with people in it that we can talk to?
What I'll do is I'll say that Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter, you're worried that your car won't necessarily do too well if you go into the town, but you think if you guys bundle up, you might be able to run through the sandstorm and get inside.
Yeah. So I just, before even thinking too much about it, I just boldly open the door and get out of the car into the harsh blowing sand, and I use my theatrics, and I just like walk very as confidently as Rupert Beaumont is capable of walking, and acting like the sand isn't bothering me, and just like walking straight for the town.
Okay, roll a theatrics check for me, Rupert.
It's a natural 6.
Oh wow,
plus,
pretty good.
Plus 2.
So we're going to put a pause on that. Rupert, you've walked into the sandstorm. Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, and Greed. Rupert, if you just hang tight for a second. Kent Sullivan Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, and Greed. You see Rupert walk into the sandstorm and disappear.
Where the fuck did he go? Why we got this kid around? This is all your fault somehow.
So what do you guys do?
So there's no, can I look around and see any other people?
You can't see anything. Like, the town is completely encircled with this sandstorm. You can't see any buildings. You know that what you're next to is basically a sign that says "Welcome to Maori, population 197," but you actually can't see any buildings.
I sigh and I'm like, wish I had my fucking jacket. And I get out of the car.
Greed reaches into his sort of bag of holding type thing that he has and pulls out a jacket.
What I'm going to make you do is spend a karma point to invoke that, but I like it.
Is that my jacket?
Yes.
So
it's mine.
One of the great things about karma points is you can invoke situations to say, this is something that I would have brought with me on this. So I'm going to make you invoke a karma point, but you have the jacket with you. It's Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter's jacket. Maybe it's like a Letterman jacket and it's got Kent Sullivan on the back. And you kind of wrap it around your sheep body.
No, it's a New York Times jacket from the time Kent
love
Sullivan
it.
Boy Reporter
It's like
got to go
merch,
visit the office or something.
Perfect.
Okay, so my suspicion now as Elliot is that we've come to visit a scourge, and also now everything is like disappearing. I have a feeling this place has been swallowed by the abyss. I'm trying to figure out how greed would respond to this. Since the abyss is so framed around taking stuff as well, I'm not sure exactly. I feel like he might run away.
I feel like Ken Sullivan needs to go in because his curiosity is going to get the better of him here.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to compel you, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, to, in your search for the truth, to charge in through the sandstorm, and Greed is going to follow behind you. So take an extra karma point, and you guys all charge through the sandstorm.
All right.
Kent
Charging.
Sullivan, I'm going to make you roll a brawn check. For me.
So to be clear, Greed did not want to go in, but due to his familiar bonds,
Yes, he is
had
forced to follow. Yes.
Yeah.
So Kent Sullivan, you feel the boy reporter. You feel the sand whipping against you, and you might take some damage. Because Rupert and Greed protected themselves, I'm not going to make them take any damage. But Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, roll a brawn check for me.
Didn't have anything to protect myself. Okay. Well, that's not good. I got a -1.
Oh, no.
Yeah, -1.
Okay, so you're going to take 2 physical stress there, Kent Sullivan.
Oh my god.
So,
oh my god.
do you have 2 physical stress boxes left? You've just checked it
Yeah,
off?
because I haven't. Yeah.
Nobody's taking any damage? Okay, perfect. So that's been checked off. So now if you take more physical stress, you might actually take a moderate or severe consequence.
Okay.
Oh no.
So we're inside the town. You guys all get inside, and actually, Rupert, you got inside about a minute ago, and you've just kind of been waiting for the group to join you. And as you've been in here, you've noticed that despite the fact that it was daytime outside, it seems like it's night in here. You can't see the moon or any stars, which is weird in this far into the country. You should be able to see stars, but you can't. But it is nighttime. It's dark. And actually, you've passed 1 or 2 buildings as you got in, and you can see inside that people are all asleep. There's no lights on. It seems like everyone's kind of shut down for the night.
Okay.
The rest of the group, the rest of the group kind of meets up with you as you're starting to notice this, and you explain it to them.
It seems like this is wacky. Like it's dark. I passed some of those buildings over there. I looked in the window. It looks like people are, basically in bed. Everything's shut down. Like they kind of acting like it's nighttime in here, even though it's obviously not nighttime.
Well, let's go talk to someone.
Just quickly, Matt, that was probably about 50% too high energy for Rupert.
Okay, sorry. Let me bring it down.
Okay, but you guys want to talk to somebody? So there's a house nearby that you can knock at. That sounded good.
Yeah, that was good.
That was a really good knocking sound effect. You knock, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and there is no response.
Okay.
Is there a role for might be connections or something?
Yeah.
Like a
Tell me
sort
what
of
you want to do. And
yeah,
we'll fit
like
role
a
to it.
detect magic type thing. I want to.
Okay.
I want to feel what ambient effects might be taking place on me while we're in here.
Let's call it a practice roll. So if
Yeah.
you roll for practice, I'll let you kind of suss out whether you think something is strange here. And look, spoiler alert. The fact that there was a big sandstorm outside the town means something strange is going on. But I'll give you a bit more specific.
I know there's something strange. I want to know what it is. Yeah. +2.
Okay, +2 means I'll give you some stuff. So obviously, the fact that it's nighttime in here and wasn't nighttime out there is strange. The fact that everyone's asleep is strange. And actually, you kind of peek in the window. You kind of hop up on Kent Sullivan Boy Detective's shoulders and look in a window, and you notice that the people there's a couple that are asleep in a king size bed here, and they seem thin, remarkably thin. Emaciated level thin. Yeah. Something weird is going on here for sure. You notice that next to them there's a glass of water, and it's started to go a little bit green on the bedside table next to their bed.
Yes. So they've been asleep for a week, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do we feel any do I feel drowsy or anything?
No, not specifically. Kent Sullivan Boy Reporter still feels a little tired. This is from being low energy from Yarima, but you guys don't feel like you're about to fall asleep, for example. Actually, why don't I give you something else, which is as Yarima told you about Angus Wilson, the practitioner who lives in town. He actually told you the address of him in Murray, so you can head to Angus Wilson's house if you want to try and scope that out too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, let's go there. I think that makes sense to me.
Okay.
I want to figure out what the hell's going on. The curiosity. I'm getting a little reckless here.
Yeah. So you guys head throughout town, and again, all the stores are closed. It actually is like they've closed for the night. There's nothing especially weird going on. They're not like boarded up or anything. It just seems like they've shut down for the night. Any houses you pass, if you see any people, they're invariably asleep. And eventually you find your way to Angus Wilson's house. It's a non-assuming kind of place, a classic kind of brick style house. There's nothing too strange going on with the house architecture, I should say. It's a small town house, and the lights are all off in it. There's no windows that you can see what's going on in.
Well, let's knock. Let's knock.
Okay. You knock, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and there is no response.
All right, question.
Hey,
does this house,
greedy boy.
Does this house have a doggy door?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Could a sheep fit through this
Yes,
dog
it
door?
could.
Well, should I do that? Take
That's a
sheep,
big
take,
dog.
take sheep
Right.
It's a
form?
big fucking doggy door.
It's all wool. You can kind of compress the wool to fit in. Are you going to go inside?
Yeah. Unless there's any objections, it seems like the right thing to do, right?
Hey,
Yeah.
Greed, buddy, familiar friend of mine.
Yes.
Go in there, go crazy. Can you at least unlock the door after you go in? For the rest of us, just please, please.
No, Greed doesn't actually respond. He like goes into the doggy door, but he does like once he's in, he takes his like Monopoly Man form, and opens the door and makes it very clear that he's giving you permission to enter.
I like that. You've been given permission. So you guys all step inside into this home, and you can kind of immediately sense that it's the home of a practitioner. It's a small town practitioner, so it's not that overwhelming. But you do see things like shrines, things like some interesting paintings that don't quite make sense when you look at them. Things that immediately suggest to you something's a little off about the owner of this house in general. But that seems to be roughly what you'd expect with practitioners.
And
You
a
kind of-
scourge, right?
and a scourge as well. So there's a bit like there is some weirdly horrifying imagery of like torturous things, darkness. Actually, it seems about 20% darker in this house than it was outside. But you head inside, and poking around, you see an old school style kitchen. You see a living room, and you see a bedroom, and the door to the bedroom is open. And inside there, you see there's a kind of small dog bed on the floor. In that dog bed, there's a toad that is soundly sleeping, a cane toad. And in the bed is sleeping a man who I think you do recognize because you've met him once or twice before as Angus Wilson, fast asleep.
Let's wake him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can anyone? Because you guys both have the sight, right?
Yeah,
Can
let's
you-
fucking do that.
Can you
I-
give this toad a quick once over? Like, there shouldn't
gonna-
really be a cane toad out here.
It's probably as familiar, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
definitely
let's check that.
I'm not going to make you roll for that. It's obvious enough when you look with the sight that this cane toad is an other. I don't think. What is everyone's practice scores?
0.
2.
2. Okay, I think Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, you would know that this is a. Hold on, where's my notes? Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, you would know that this. Yes, this is a familiar, and not just that. You actually recognize what it is. It is a type of creature called a mudgewangik, which is basically kind of like a Aboriginal Australian mermaid, but a bit more humanoid. It lives around swamps and it feasts on human flesh.
Hey guys, that's a Mudgewankik.
A muljawangik.
A Muljawangik.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know these things.
Is it dangerous or is it like a nice kind of other?
I mean, like define dangerous, like everything's relative.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So is it dangerous?
So this
Extremely.
This Muljawangic and Angus Wilson are both fast asleep here, and you guys are just standing, looking, creeping on him.
I mean, let's go try to wake the dude up. Can we do like?
While they're doing
Is
that,
there like?
Greed's rifling through the drawers,
Okay.
like
Is-
the bedside tables, just seeing what's in there.
Hey, Rupert, wake him up, wake him up.
I start like very gently, like with two fingers, kind of gently poking him in the shoulder. I'm like, hey, wake up, sleepy.
Yep.
Hey.
Wow.
Yeah, I got what is about a 0.05% chance roll, which is 4 negatives here. So I'm going
Wow.
to allow that to succeed.
Okay.
So it seems a little more difficult than it should to wake him up, especially as your poking gets a bit more forceful. But he eventually does start to wake up as you're like shaking him, like the kind of level where somebody really should have woken up 3 or 4 steps ago. But he does
Okay.
wake up and he starts to rouse slightly. And he looks up at you and I guess this is a good question for you, Rupert. Have you met Angus Wilson before?
Probably.
Okay.
I've been in the scene for a few years.
Yeah. So let's say maybe once or twice you've met him. He doesn't live in the same town, obviously, but he travels around, and so you sometimes cross paths.
Yeah.
Okay.
I push Angus out of the way and walk in front of him
Sorry.
and go. Or no, I push
Yeah.
Rupert out of the way
Yeah.
and walk in front of him and go. Kent Sullivan, boy reporter.
Okay. And he kind of recognizes you as well, Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, and he recognizes you, Rupert. And he kind of groggily is like, hello?
Did you know you're sleeping at 2:00 in the afternoon?
Greed's just like closing all the drawers
Yes,
he's been opening and
slowly
stuff, like
closing the
slowly.
drawers.
Like,
What's going? Is it? What time is it?
What's the last thing you remember?
Who? Kent? Sullivan, boy reporter.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my entire name. Yes.
And
There's some
Rupert.
kind of dangerous meow spirit, like attacking your
That's
town.
2. Call it. That's 2. What are we? Sorry. And he seems like quite out of it. What's? Sorry. Run that past me again.
Like there's like a spirit, and there's like a sandstorm, and it's dark outside, even though it's 2 in the afternoon. I think maybe you're being affected by some kind of mental, you know.
Is it- do you guys? Okay. Who are you guys here to deal with this?
Look, I'm gonna be honest here. No.
Is it affecting the entire town?
It seems
Yes.
like it, yeah. I mean, do you have any idea what, like, did you notice this happen, or was there some new?
I just went to sleep last night. I don't know. I suspect this maybe is Yuntiri. We've been dealing with, and he just falls back asleep again.
Is there any way that I can use karma via my skills to like give this guy some pep?
Okay, how would you want to do that? What aspect do you think you can invoke here to give him some pep?
So I'm very generous, so I could like give him some of my energy, or I
Okay.
could, because I'm very altruistic, super altruistic.
Yeah.
Sit on his lap.
And I have a gut.
Sit on his lap by Big Omega.
I like the idea that I'm gonna. Somebody said I should use my cat fancier power to jump onto his lap. I think this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to like combine theatrics and all of my other things to jump onto him bodily, and in doing so, like shunt some of my energy and vivacity into him.
Okay, I'm gonna require you to spend a karma point there, but I'll allow that
Sounds
to happen.
good.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
So you kind of jump onto him, and as you do, he kind of sits bolt upright, and you actually feel yourself starting to get a little bit sleepy now, Rupert. But he seems
Okay.
awake, and Angus is suddenly alert, and he says, Yuntiri, yes. Yuntiri, I suspect Yuntiri's been making plays to try and expand into South Australia. Do you know what I'm talking about?
yes.
Yeah.
Can you guys, do you know, are you strong enough to deal with this?
I mean, define deal with.
Okay, here's what
No.
you need to do. Listen very carefully. And he almost nods off for a second before he kind of rouses himself again.
I slap him across the face.
He wakes up again and he says, Near Mari, you need to
That's
go.
where we are.
You need to go to the Mari man.
What? What?
And he says, and he kind of is starting to fall asleep again. And so he only gets out a few loose words before he crashes again. He says, Protector, Lines, Mari, and he falls asleep.
Oh, cool. I got it now, guys. Let's do that.
I think Greed just waits expectantly because, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, is meant to be the knowledgeable, chasing the story one here. So Greed's just waiting to.
Maybe Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, do you want to do a knowledge check to see if you know what he's talking about?
I can try. I think it would be more realistic if I not know everything, but I
Oh, you got to snoop
do
out the clues.
Yeah, I want to snoop the house. Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you do a...
Greed's already got a head start on that too. So
Yeah, Green's been helping out. Let's do a wits check here.
Okay. Wow, that was a good roll. +4.
Okay, perfect. Here's what I'm going to get. You actually find your way into the study of Angus Wilson. And there you find a bunch of notes of miscellaneous things. And part of these notes, you found him talking about the Mari Man. It doesn't actually specify to you what the Mari Man is, but you find a location for it, and you find more information. Basically, that this Mari Man has, since time eternal, since Mari spawned as a town, has been responsible for helping protect Mari, specifically against Yuan-Tiri. And so this is something that you definitely think could be helpful, and you have a location for it. It's about half an hour drive out of town. You don't specifically know what it is, but you can find your way there.
yeah,
All right.
should we just go?
Hey, Greed. Is there anything you want in here?
I mean, his pockets are already fairly lined. There used to be jewelry in here. There's not.
So you guys head out. Actually, as you guys start to approach the border to the town, you obviously see the sandstorm again, but it seems a lot weaker coming out of the town than it does going in. And so you feel like you're able to pass through with no real problems.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
So you get to the other side of the sandstorm, and it is nighttime now. You were in there for maybe 8 or 9 hours, even though it felt like maybe about 1. About 1 hour. So you guys get back into your car, and Scott, you head towards where the Mari Man seems to be located. And actually, as you get closer, Scott and Matt, I know you guys aren't going to necessarily know what this is, but maybe there's an analogy for America. But
Sure.
in Australia, we have these signs that are usually brown in rural Australia that will point you towards landmarks as you're driving along a major highway. You'll see these signs that point out landmarks for tourists and stuff to just kind of head off the highway and find something.
Yeah, we got those.
Perfect. And as you're about halfway there, you see a sign for the Mari Man. And so it seems to you that this is actually not just something that exists in the universe of practitioners, but is actually something that exists for humans as well.
Okay.
So
Cool.
you guys...
Do you think that's the Mari Man?
It is a sign that says Mari Man and points, so it's a pretty strong guess.
Yes.
I'm gonna
do
give
you
that.
guys
I'm
think?
gonna give that a pretty solid yes, mentor
Yeah.
or mentee.
Yeah, this is
Glad-
a learning
Alright.
opportunity here for Rupert.
Look, I know the world of practicing can be confusing sometimes, but sometimes a sign is a sign.
That's so deep.
So you guys turn off to see the Mari Man, and as you get closer, you realize there's kind of 2 paths. One path to the right that leads towards basically points and says Mari Man, and one towards the left that says Mari Man Observation. And you see the left path kind of climbs up higher and higher. You guys can choose whichever way you'd like to go, directly there or to the observation.
I am gonna want to do some observing.
Okay, so Kent Sullivan, boy detective, leads towards the observation, and you guys climb up higher and higher, and eventually you get to this little kind of gondola, what do I call gazebo? That's right. a little like gazebo on a hill overlooking a cliff. And as you look down on this cliff, you see the Maori man. And I'm just going to Google image search it for our.
Looks like. But it might be worth Matt and Scott, you guys quickly looking up what the Maori man looks like. If people are familiar with the concept of the Nazca lines, it's similar to that. It's basically a big etched out like thing that is etched in the ground. It's huge, like gigantic. This concept, this image of a man that has been etched into the ground, and you guys see this thing. Static, etched into the ground far below you from this gazebo on a cliff.
Why did
hold on.
Ruben's
microphone
voice
has
just
gone
drop
more
an
manly.
entire
I'm
level?
gonna just
Ruben's
kind of
the
amazing.
microphone in and out again
It's
as we've gone deep
incredible.
voiced.
I was trying
Very
to
creepy.
understand what was happening. I was like, "Wow, is he putting on an affect?
I'm putting on an
for
affect for the-
describing the
for the
Maori
Maori
man."
Yeah,
So
they
this
made
is
it.
a real thing. This is just someone just made this.
Yes, it is a real thing that has
Or-
existed for a long, long time, and nobody quite knows where it's come from. We're going to find
What
out
is it?
today.
What is it carved at? Like, how is it made?
Interesting. Eternal questions. Who knows?
It's mysterious.
I think we're back. Can you guys hear us again? Are we back to normal?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So you guys see the Maui man deep below you, and it's static. It isn't moving. And actually, if you look at it through the sight, you can see there's some kind of glows about it, but nothing really active. So looking down on it, I guess the question is, what do you do?
Hey, look at that.
You enjoy the beauty of nature, and then you go home.
We should go see what's up with that,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, seems dangerous though. Seems like a lot of kind of ritual, like power went into this kind of thing,
Hey, Greed.
and we want to have our wits about us, I guess.
Hey, Greed, do you want that? Do you want it?
Yes.
Well played there, Ken Sullivan, boy reporter.
Incarnations, they're easy to manipulate.
Well, let's go.
Okay, so you guys head back down towards the Maori man, and driving down towards it, the road extends to maybe about 100 meters from where the first bit of etching is. But you guys can walk along. It's kind of protected, so you can't get too close to it without kind of cutting past some barriers. But you kind of sneak under a little chain, and you get close to it, and you're kind of standing now at the base of this thing, near one of the feet that is like maybe 200 meters tall. Actually, I'll look up the specific facts on that, but it's huge.
Yeah.
You guys are looking.
It says the
up at this.
lines are 35 meters
Oh, God,
across,
it's
just the lines.
2.7 kilometers tall, so about 2 miles tall.
Yeah.
Why?
So it's big.
Yeah, it's
It's
pretty big.
very big.
Why did somebody do this?
So
Sorry, I'm totally distracted now reading. It's just
Yeah, I
like
know.
looking-
Like, this is
See,
fascinating.
this is the thing
too.
about doing Pact Fates in an Australian outback setting is you get some interesting stuff that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've
We're
learned
taking
about
so much
Aboriginal
time.
creatures. You've learned about the Maori man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, like would know about this, right? Like this is pretty common Australian knowledge.
Actually, it went viral about two or 3 years ago. So that's probably when it first crossed your radar.
Oh, it would be
okay.
in Broken Hill. I
Yeah, you
think
would've heard of it? Yeah, okay.
we would have been more likely
Fair
to
enough.
know it exists.
All right,
yeah.
so I can't be like, I got instead of being like, wow, this is crazy. I got to be like, wow, it's even more ridiculous up close.
Yeah, it's even crazier than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I
Um,
never really thought about this, Greed and Rupert, but there's got to be some crazy magic shit going on here.
Yeah, this seems like a ritual or something, right?
Can we do any kind of like detecting of stuff? I don't know.
Tell me what you
Here's-
want to do, and I'll apply some skills to it. Anything
Okay.
you want to do, you can do.
I want to see if there's like if this thing is if there's a specific source of power surrounding this thing and where it's like if it coalesces at any particular point.
So what I'll do is I'll get you to roll a practice check for me there, Ken.
Okay. All right.
boy reporter.
Ken Sullivan, boy reporter. Yes, sorry.
Ooh, that's a bad. I got a 1.
So you can see there's some magical energies here, but you can't really trace it. You don't have any good ideas on how to.
I'd like to do the same thing, but focusing on the source, like if there's an external source feeding it.
Okay.
Just because that seems like something that greed could then take.
As a reminder, if you guys think you have an aspect you can invoke to assist with this roll, feel free to spend a karma point to do so.
I don't know.
Okay. So just do a flat practice roll.
1.
With no bonuses?
No.
All right. Again, you don't. You sense that there. Actually, here's what you sense. There's no external source powering this. There was some source that powered it originally, but it's long gone.
Self-sustaining.
And it's self-sustaining now.
Okay.
Interesting. Interesting. The plot thickens.
Like so many grains of sand.
Well, look, I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, let's go to the head.
Rupert, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
No, I'm just looking through my aspects and trying to see if I can make something work. I guess I could roll wits to see if I can. Like, what would wits allow me to do here? I'm not sure.
Tell me what you want to try and do first. Don't worry about the skills so much. Talk about what you want to do first, and then we'll apply whichever skill is most relevant to it.
I mean, I think.
Go ahead.
I just want to kind of think about the layout of the situation and think about which I want to approach and walk like onto the Mari man, but I want to know like what part of it we should be aiming for is what I'm trying to figure out.
I think we should go for the penis.
It does have a penis, yes. Okay, let's do I think wits works for that. Let's talk about a wits check here to try and suss out how can you best interact with this thing.
Okay. Sounds good.
So yeah, roll it for me.
Okay. I'm kind of confused about how the rolling works. What if I get like the null answer?
So each plus is a +1, each minus is a -1, and each empty square has no effect.
So I guess I get minus. I guess I get a 0.
Okay, and do you have any wits skill?
Well, so that was a -1 plus 1. So that's
right. Yes. So you end up with a 0. So here's what I am going to tell you. You can see that it does have that it's anatomically correct. Let's say. And you figure out that if you want to get its attention, that is a very strong way of doing so.
The penis?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the penis.
Let's
Onward to the penis.
You guys walk across, and as you start stepping out onto the lines and stepping in between the lines, you get this sense of like violation, like you're violating the sanctity of this place a little bit. And it kind of leaves you with your hairs and wool, in some cases, feeling like it's standing on edge a bit. And as you get closer to the groin of the Mari man, it starts to respond, and you feel it and see it starting to react.
I can't believe going to the penis was the right move.
And it starts to shift under you. These lines start to move across the ground until suddenly you're not standing on it anymore. And its head is right next to where you're standing, as you went about halfway towards its groin from the feet where you were before. Its head is now next to you.
Did it move, or did it just moved. Sit up?
It's still on the ground completely, as in it's completely two-dimensional. It hasn't raised above the ground, but it has shifted along the ground so that its head is right next to you now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's weird. I hold out my hands to the Mari man and I say, Ken Sullivan, boy reporter.
And you kind of put your hand against the ground and you see it shift. And it's impossible to even detect that a hand is coming towards you because you're so close and it is, 2 miles, 2 kilometers big. But you see some lines shift around and you get the sense that it reacted to your handshake at least somewhat.
Cool.
Okay. Do you need our help?
I got.
Are you okay, man?
It doesn't really react to that, Rupert.
Okay.
Are you owned?
Again, no real response. It doesn't seem
Worth a
capable
shot.
of talking, but you kind of get. Let's put it this way: when Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, put his hand down to shake, you got this feeling of like affirmative. You got this feeling of like acceptance. And when you, Rupert, and you, Greed, just ask your questions, you felt nothing. Not a negative response, but a completely lack of any response there.
Mari man, I would like to do an exclusive interview with you.
Okay, what are you trying to do here, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter?
Trying to get an interview with the giant
Okay.
penis man.
There is no response here. I mean, obviously.
I'm very uncomfortable, but I try to channel some of my cat lover energy and just kind of pet the ground as if it's a cat.
Okay.
I love that.
Let's say this. Let's do a rapport check for you there, Rupert. If you want to roll
Okay.
rapport for me.
Oops. Uh-oh. Oh no. This always happens.
So we had a Nocturne come in a little late, so they've missed the gist. But if you've joined late, we're trying to solve the problem of environmental desert expansion in Australia. We've got 3 characters here. We've got an incarnation of greed. We've got Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, a 40-year-old boy reporter. And we've got Rupert Beaumont, who is a exotic cat dealer, very altruistic cat dealer.
Yes. I got a +1 on my whatever that was.
Okay. Have you ever felt an earthquake, Matt?
Yeah. Yes.
What you feel now is about 20% of an earthquake.
Okay.
And it's worth pointing out there aren't fault lines near where you are, so
No.
that shouldn't be possible physically.
On
Okay.
a scale of 1 to 10, how much do these earthquakes feel like purring?
8.
Okay.
Oh,
I just keep petting, I guess.
Cool. So you're kind of stroking this line on the ground, and your hand is getting quite dirty.
Okay.
Because this is
So
dirt, obviously. In case that wasn't obvious. We've got a donation from Kyrgyzstan, who has donated $2.75 and says, "Going to bed, enjoy the next few hours. This total better be an even dollar amount when I get back." Kyrgyzstan, thank you for that. We will see you.
thank you,
On the flip
Kyrgyzstan.
side in, what,
Yeah.
8 hours?
Yeah.
Have a good sleep.
So
I'm jealous.
Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, is going to do some boy reporting and realize that it responded when I introduced myself. It responded to Matt petting it. Maybe it responds to the things that we closely identify with ourselves. So do a test, Greed. Don't just ask it if it's owned. Do like a greedy test.
Grab some dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know if I don't know if Rupert would say that.
No, I was having the same thought though. I mean, I guess
See you,
greed
Orange.
just goes to like the lines or the edge of the lines and just starts trying to pick up some of the dirt.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what happens then. And let's roll a guts check, I think.
Oh, guts is one of the things I have for
All right.
us.
We'll put
Okay.
that then. Let me pull
Oh,
up the
just-
stats
just-
for the
just a
Mari
+1.
man.
+0. Wait for everyone, or just for
Do we
him?
all have to roll?
No, just greed
Oh,
here.
okay. Never mind.
I got a 1.
Okay, so here's what happens, Greed. You take some dirt and you put it in a pocket, and you feel yourself starting to fall. And you feel this kind of pain in your hooves, which starts to spread up your legs. And suddenly looking down, you notice that your body is becoming two-dimensional lines that are getting sucked into the ground.
Oh, you're not taking a dimension away from me. Greed starts like pulling the dirt back out. Like
Can I give my familiar some of my power to help him get out of this?
Sure, let's do that. But I'll give you a +1 to that from your power that you're drawing from
Kent Sullivan,
Kent
Boy
Sullivan, Boy
Reporter.
Reporter. Actually, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. What I'm actually going to do is I'll let you do that. I'm going to give you a karma point, but I'm also going to invoke that you're going to take 2 physical damage from this because you're already low energy. Giving up power in addition is going to cost a physical toll.
Okay. Well, then I need a consequence.
Slap some
Alright.
glamour on it.
So you've actually just taken some proper physical damage, Kent Sullivan, and as a
Yeah.
result, You need
Boy,
to
oh boy.
take a moderate consequence. So
Okay.
I'll let you define what that is while I finish describing what happens to Greed here.
Wait, I get to pick what the consequence is?
Well, maybe I'll pick for you if you don't pick a good one, but pick something and we'll see.
Just mild discomfort.
Greed, you start a bit of a headache, but some aspirin and you'll be fine. Greed, you start falling into the second dimension, and as you feel a burst of power come to you from Ken Sullivan, Boy Reporter, you fight back a bit and you throw away this dirt that you picked up. But you definitely feel like you angered the Maori man by trying to steal some of it. And as a response, you're going to take 2 physical stress as well.
Fair.
So let's mark that on your sheet. Boop, 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 boop.
I think I've just been soothingly petting the Mari man the whole time.
Yep. So you're doing good. You're doing good, Rupert. Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter, let's give you a moderate consequence. You're low on power. What are we going to say?
I think I can probably not stand very well at this point. Look, I'm trying to invent a scenario in which I'm riding my greed lamb at the end of this
Oh,
thing.
yeah,
So
okay. Let's call that.
Remember-
Then. Let's
Yeah,
say
so like shaky legs.
shaky legs. I like that. Shaky legs.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So I mean, okay.
So you've tried to steal some
I'm
of the Maori
thinking,
man. That didn't work.
No, I'm thinking it's more that it's like a pet.
Okay.
That's the vibe I'm getting.
So what are you guys trying to do here?
Yeah, I don't know. Get the Mari man to go back home, right? What did old mate Scourge guy tell us again? Just to go to the Mari man.
I'm gonna be honest. I totally forgot.
Yeah, me too.
I
He
could
said,
tell.
he
I
said,
could tell.
yeah, he said Mari man protector lines, Mari.
Mhm,
He said the word protector in there.
mhm.
Yeah, so I'm
So
assuming it's some
that's
sort of guardian spirit.
So we
Yeah.
need to invoke it to help fight off this invading. Maybe we should just try somehow communicating to it that like its territory is, or its territory is being attacked.
Yeah.
Mari man, your town is in terrible danger.
So I'm going to let you in on something that you notice here, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter. It doesn't seem to be responding to anything that you guys say. It only really responds when you take physical actions on the ground.
Okay, I use theatrics, and I draw. So I pick up a handful of dirt, and then I
That's a bad
use
idea.
it to draw. Like I do the thing where you like move your hand in a circle and let the sand spill out. So I like draw a circle of sand on the ground, and then I like streak my hand through it violently.
I'm going to, instead of using theatrics, I'm going to force you to use artistry there, which is related to art
Okay.
kind of creation.
Okay, I don't
if you
have
want
any.
to roll artistry for me.
Okay, that's a +1.
Okay. You convey that there is sandstorm, and you convey that there is danger, and I think that's enough to get the Maori man interested. And it starts to shift again, and its head kind of points towards you again, Rupert, before it starts moving along the ground in the direction that you recognize as towards Maori.
Hey, good job. You
Right.
solved the Mari puzzle.
Wait, is that copyrighted? Can we do that?
Yeah, I think we could steal that from Taz.
I don't think they can copyright that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we're starting to run out of time a little bit here, so let's
Yeah.
pick it up a bit. You guys
Sure.
drive back towards Maori, and once you get there, you kind of, as you start to get close, you notice that the Maori man is traveling alongside your car towards Maori, about able to keep pace with you guys, even as you're traveling, 50, 60 kilometers an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, it's easily keeping pace, which is, 60 miles an hour?
60
Yeah.
miles. Yeah.
So you guys get back to Murray, and you realize that the Murray man now is kind of doing something you can't quite tell from because you're too close to the ground, but it's clearly like wrapping its hands around the sandstorm, and it seems like the sandstorm is starting to get subdued a bit as a response. The sandstorm is starting to die down, but it's clear that there's something inside the town that is preventing it from fully being snuffed out.
Okay. We go back inside the town.
Yeah. We'll just go to the
Yeah.
heart of the storm.
And it's worth pointing out that the sandstorm is weakened now, and so you're not taking any more damage as you walk through it, even unprotected as Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, is.
Is this like Ghostbusters 2 where I can ride the Maori Man into the city? And...
Well, it's 2-dimensional, so you can try.
Yeah.
You get inside, and it's now clearly, you guys can tell it's about to be daybreak. You can tell from the time inside that you're almost at daybreak, but the sunlight hasn't quite gotten over the horizon yet. And you walk into the center of the town, and you start to see the sandstorm outside is getting weaker and weaker. And as it starts to die down, actually sand inside the town starts getting whipped up more and more. And sand kind of starts, you feel this shaking, you feel this sensation of like sand at the beach, like sand starting to fly against and whip against your legs and any exposed skin. And this sand is kind of flowing into the center of the town until eventually it coalesces into this form, this sandy humanoid form that takes shape in the center of the town in front of you. And it looks at you, and its sandy mouth opens, and it roars as it charges towards you. And we're going to get into a bit of a conflict here.
Okay, I'm like, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, care to comment on the status of the town?
Let's roll. Actually, not roll. Let's check our dexterity here, because that's going to determine our turn order. So, what's everyone's dexterity?
3 for me.
1.
Nothing.
Okay.
0.
So the first thing that's going to happen is this sand demon is going to run towards you, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. And because of your desire to chase out a story, you're almost always ahead of the pack. And that means you're closer to this demon than anybody else. I'm calling it a demon. It's not really a demon. It's just a sandy beast thing.
Sure.
But it seems kind of horrifying to you guys. So it's going to run towards you. Don't look at these hidden aspects.
I'm not. I was watching
Elliot.
on Twitch, actually.
Okay.
No. I can't read that
Yes,
from here.
cheat, Elliot, cheat. We need to help.
It runs towards you, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, and it dives at you. And I'm going to make you contest with your dexterity to try and get out of the way.
Okay, does shaky legs make this list? Because I feel like it should.
I'm not going to compel that because I feel like it's a bit too harsh right now.
Okay, well, regardless, I got a 0. So.
It slams right into you, and you feel this sand whip around your body, and you're going to take 2 physical stress. And I think that means it's time for you to invoke your final consequence.
Oh, God.
So, Kent Sullivan, you are out of consequences after this one, which means any more physical damage you're going to take is going to kill you.
Oh, gosh.
I'm
Just
going
another fucking day for Kent Sullivan.
I'm going to invoke your
reporter.
severe consequence here. And the consequence I'm going to invoke for you is flayed skin, which is a bit of a Wild Boy classic. Your skin has been like completely flayed by the sand that is buffering you.
Oh dear. Like all of it, or?
Let's just say exposed skin. So I'm going to say hands and face.
Oh dear.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Dear
Hey,
Lord.
we're talking
my
severe
poor boy.
consequences here, folks. This is what it looks like.
Okay.
Greed, I believe you're up next. So now we have the sand demon is right near you guys. You guys are all kind of near it. It's just attacked Kent Sullivan, boy reporter. Greed, you're up.
What? Yeah. What does Greed do? Yeah.
Help!
So, Kent Sullivan, boy reporter, coughs out sand in between moans for help.
So I would be like, as a familiar, I would presumably be losing power as Kent Sullivan.
Yes,
because I like
yes.
you feel.
I'm not going to
mutual
invoke
pain.
any aspects on it, but possibly.
No, I'm just thinking I'm feeling mutual pain. So I do think.
Sorry, I just have to quickly say, in chat, Nathan Awake has said, Kent Sullivan, flayed reporter, and I just love that.
I think this is one of those instances where I can justify greed, either giving power or trying to help Ken Sullivan, boy reporter, because like he's being hurt by this too.
Maybe, do you want to hit us with some of that beautiful Bogan accent as you decide what you're going to do?
Yeah, okay. I guess you so you take a deep breath and back. I'm trying to think of something poetic. Kent, take of me.
Okay. So you're going to attempt to restore him.
Yeah. I'm going to give him power, and I'm hoping that the monumentalness of this makes that more powerful for Kent. Like it's going to take more from me, but hopefully give a bit more to Kent. Sullivan, Boy Reporter.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to compel your unwillingness to give up things here to mean that, yes, I'll let you do it, but it's going to be such an ordeal to you that you're going to take much harder penalties than you would normally to do something like this.
Yep.
So to you, I'm going to allow you to give Kent Sullivan some of his stress boxes back, but at a cost of 2 to 1 to you. So I'll let you decide how much, but whatever stress he gets back, you're going to take double.
Okay.
So if we look at Kent Sullivan's stress boxes, he has a 1 and a 2 physical stress
So
box.
I can get us... Oh, so that would take me to severe.
Indeed.
Ooh.
Thanks, buddy.
This is so good.
But you get a karma point in exchange. because they compelled
I'm
this of
gonna
you.
do it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to invoke a severe consequence here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Net positive utility. That's all that matters.
What's the okay, here's the severe consequence I'm going to give. Because this is you giving something up for somebody else, I feel like that runs so against the way you see yourself that I'm going to give you a consequence that means that you are burdened by this additional, like, accidental giving up of things. And so I'm going to call it holes in pockets. Oh, I can't. Oh, this is Rupert's one. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to call it holes in pockets, which means you're going to basically accidentally give things away in the future as a kind of punishment of you taking this step of self-sacrifice, which is so out of character for you.
Yeah. Okay.
And Kent Sullivan, I'll give you your 2 and your 1 stress boxes back.
I'm alive.
Well, you're still on shaky legs and with flayed skin, but you get a bit of second wind, let's say.
I'm kind of alive.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on, guys. We need to finish this. Let's kill this thing.
Next up, Rupert.
Okay. So first off, I know there's no game mechanic for this, but I will point out that I defeated the sand one time when I boldly walked through it without being harmed.
Okay,
And then
I
I
like
defeated the sand. I defeated the sand a second time when I used sand to communicate with the Mari
Alright,
man.
so we're going for a rule of 3 play here.
We're going for rule 3 play. Okay. I quickly cast about myself for any standing water hoses coming out of houses, anything I could use to get water.
Okay. I'm going to let you, because of your good karma, because of the good karma that your character defines themselves by, I'll let you kind of invoke your authoritative aspect here to say that you look at the nearest house and there is a tap with a long hose right next to it just by chance, and it just kind of works out for you.
Do I spend a karma for that?
I'll make you spend a karma for it, but you now have a hose, and you can kind of spray this sand demon with it.
Okay, I run over, I grab the hose, and I start spraying the sand demon.
Okay. Maybe let's make. It's going to try and resist it with its brawn, but I'm going to let you kind of make an attack against it with, I guess, brawl. Your brawl stat plus maybe 2 or 3. So give a roll for me and add, let's say, 3 to it.
So that would be a 2 total because I got a -1. Yeah.
So you've inflicted some solid damage to this sand demon. Not only does it take some damage, but it starts to get bogged down a bit, which means it's going to be easier to dodge its physical attacks going forward. Which is good, because it is upset by what you've just done to it, Rupert. And so it charges at you and tries to slam itself into you. Roll a dexterity check for me.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a bit of a bonus from the fact that it's kind of gluggier and solider.
Okay, it's a +0.
+0, it also got a 0. So it kind of comes at you and you kind of dodge. It kind of hits you but doesn't do much damage. You kind of get out of it unscathed.
Okay,
Kent Sullivan,
take,
boy reporter, you're up.
take that kitty litter.
Yeah,
Where the
exactly.
Where the fuck is my Maori man? Where'd he go?
He's still outside battling the surrounding sandstorm, I'm afraid. He's not of much help in this conflict.
Well, that's unfortunate. Okay, well, I'm not doing too great.
Oh, you've got a second wind. What are you talking about?
Sure. My skin is open. I'm bleeding. I'm basically Blake at this point. I'm not doing well at all. So I'm gonna do something super stupid. So what is the situation right now?
So the sand creature has just attacked Rupert. He's kind of wet and starting to form together into solid clumps. And everyone seems a bit injured is the other part of the situation.
Can we, like, I don't know how practicing works. Like,
Yeah.
what should we do? What should we do to wet sand? What's a good thing to do to wet sand?
What would you like to do here, Kent Sullivan, Boy Reporter?
Well, I don't want to use any more of my own strength because I'm pretty fucked.
You want to try and use some magic to wet this sand, is that right?
Yeah, but
So
I don't.
The magic that you use revolves around investigation and knowledge, right?
So
what can we use to infer that there is knowledge that there might be water here potentially that could impact this sand demon, something like that? Some kind of knowledge-based attack that causes water to attack this sand demon.
Like a well somewhere?
Okay.
Like water under the sand somewhere?
So let's talk about this. I'll let you invoke your authoritative aspect to say that as you guys were heading towards Murray, you've researched the town, and through that research, you found out the location of groundwater, and you can compel that groundwater to kind of come up as a bit of a short geyser to attack the sand demon.
Hell yeah!
So
let's do that shit.
Spend a karma point for that, and
gladly.
You kind of run over to where you know there is water, and you kind of start beating the ground with your hands, compelling this water to come out, and it kind of bursts out and splashes into this sand demon. Why don't you roll a practice check, and I'll give you a +3 bonus, and it's going to contest it with its dexterity, I suppose.
A +3 bonus?
Yep.
Okay, well, that gives me a 3.
Okay, so slamming, this water kind of gets into it, and it is now much gluggier than usual, and so I'm going to give it the aspect of clumpy, and you guys might invoke this aspect later if you want to give yourselves a bonus.
Is it back to my turn? Yeah?
I believe so, yes. Greed, you're up.
Okay, so...
Steal it!
Yeah, well, so can I use a karma point or whatever to make it, like, sort of retcon it, or whatever? I want to have seeds in my pocket.
Okay, seeds that you've kind of taken from farms along the way, maybe. Yep.
And basically, I'm just gonna throw seeds at the sand monster, and I'm just yelling out like, I'm trying to claim the place by having it bear my fruits.
Okay.
And while at the same time, I'm hoping that the imagery of planting seeds will overpower the sense of the desert.
Okay, I really like that. Why don't you roll a practice roll for me? I'll give you a +2 bonus, and it's going to contest it with its wits here. Oh, it rolled a -3.
+3.
So here's what happens. These seeds go into this sand creature, and you see them sink in, and you see this kind of like green, radiant aura start to spread out of it. And it kind of collapses into the ground, and as it does so, a few shoots kind of spring out of the ground in the center of this of the town of Mari, right in the middle of the road. And as this sand demon collapses, you see the sandstorm around you starting to die down, and the sun starts to rise as it becomes day in Mari. And you see people starting to wake up, and the town has started to revive itself. You've killed this sand demon, so congratulations. Everybody, you can check off any stresses you have as you've completed this conflict. You are now free of any stresses that you might have had.
We're running quite behind, so
we might need
have to
accelerate a little bit here.
Skim over the conclusion.
So
but I guess
what happens next is you drive back
Let's
to
meow
Broken Hill,
home.
and Yarima says, "Good job, guys! You saved the town of Mari, and you fought back the desert for now. Congratulations!" And there are two things that happen after this. So the first thing that happens is I'll let you all take the aspect of favored with Yarima, which means you've done a good quest for him without even asking for any reward. So you can take an aspect later of favor that you can invoke for him.
Wait, we could have gotten a reward?
Yeah, that's my bad, guys. That should have been on me.
Yeah. The second thing that happens is, as we've just completed a session, your consequences are going to heal over time. So any mild consequences that you have are healed. Any moderate consequences that you have heal to mild consequences, and any severe consequences you have will heal to moderate consequences. For example, shaky legs might become a slight limp for you, Kent Sullivan, and flayed skin might become raw skin, like raw healing skin, you know?
Okay.
So it gets less severe. So, for example, for you, Greed, shot yourself in the foot, you can take away. Holes in pockets, let's change to something else. Maybe leaky wallet, which is a bit less leaking pocket. Yeah, a bit less intense.
And I feed my cats.
And yes, of course, you feed your cats, Rupert.
And then I go to write this all up into a story.
Yep.
And I realize that I can't fucking say anything about what just happened. And my story is Freak Sandstorm blows through Mari.
Yes.
That's it. That's the whole story.
Strange sandstorm passes through town. It is on page, what, 11, 12? Nobody pays attention.
Yes.
And that's the end of Pact Fates, I suppose. We spent more time doing character creation than intended, but turned out to be a fun little session, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was great. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks everyone who joined us for this section, and thank you Scott and Matt, of course, for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much
Of
for joining us.
course.
I think before we finish off, there are a few more donations to get through. Some donations from Lean Collier, who's DDev, who says, Elliot, Nocturne needs to hear your Bogan accent. Not sorry about the non-round amount. So do you want to give us a bit of Bogan Greed accent?
What are you talking about?
Perfect. Hero of Ruining Kirk's Dreams says, $2.69 here. So sorry that this isn't $4.20.69. Thank you, Hero of Old Iron.
Still more than generous.
And Aqua Buddha, unfortunately, is going to bed. Thank you, Buddha, for supporting us so much. And they say, I'm so tired, I'm going to bed, but I just want to say, love lost greater than Ratcatcher. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Pact Fates. We will possibly, if we get another $800, do more stuff on this in the future. We'll see.
Yeah.
At least Ruben and I will. We've got to.
Yeah, we
talk
won't
to
tie
Scott
Scott and Matt
that
into it
separately.
necessarily. We'll see. The next segment coming up is Do the Right Thing. We're going to be recording a Pact-themed episode of Do the Right Thing with Matthias and Jarvis.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that. We're going to take a quick break to get that all set up, and then we'll be back for that.
And I just want to say real quick before we go, y'all are incredible. Like the two of y'all, like you've done great work over this year. We're so happy that you're here at the end. It's been great. We've loved to be a part of it. And it's great seeing all these people like you so much that they're willing to donate money to this thing. It's incredible. Great job, guys.
Well, thanks, Podcast Dad. We wouldn't be here if not for you. So.
Yeah. I think we talked about it earlier before you guys came on, but we absolutely wouldn't be here if you guys hadn't.
Yeah, of course. The Doof
embraced
Media
us into
Network
Doof,
really is what has made Deep Impact into the show it is, and so we're, of course, very thankful to you guys as well.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. But y'all brought a ton to the network. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for joining us. I think, Scott, we're going to be seeing you in some amount of hours that I'm not sure.
You will be seeing me in roughly 12 and a half hours.
we'll probably be even more manic by then.
Yeah. Already I'm kind of losing the plot a bit. But yeah, cool. So we'll see you guys back soon for a bit. And check out We've Got Ward for more of these two, I suppose.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Cool. We'll be back after a short break with more Do the Right Thing stuff.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.